Hello, Canada. Hello, United States of America. Greetings to everybody all over the world. My name is KevinJJohnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show, and we're doing a special show tonight in reference to the American midterm elections. It's incredibly important that we all know what's going on, and we've got a few people joining us tonight. We've got Ed Janisek will be here in about half an hour. We've got Doug Force joining us in about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to have April June from the United States of America. She'll be joining us to talk about what's going on in the Midwest, because we have been informed all day long of just how much cheating is going on. Now, you all remember that I've run for political office in Canada 3 times, twice in the city of Mississauga, right next door to Toronto, and once in the city of Calgary. I placed second in Mississauga, and I tell you this, I honestly believe that I won. What kind of cheating do we have to endure? Well, number one, in order to not have to debate me, the mayor at the time, Bonnie Crombie, who was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and a terror funder and so on, she didn't want to debate me. So she had false criminal charges filed against me for hate speech. Yes, America, we have Section 319 of the Criminal Code, which states that if you insult somebody and they take offense to it, you can go to jail for 2 years. That's exactly what Canada's all about, communism, shutting people up. Well, on top of all that, on election day, they had power failures. There was power failures all over the city. We couldn't get in. There was no signs directing anybody to the schools and the community centers where voting was taking place. There was absolutely no announcement in the news of any kind as to what day was even election day. There were people showing up at schools a week later to vote for mayor. That's how bad the media is. People didn't even know that Bonnie Crombie had won a second time because the media hadn't covered anything properly. Nobody trusts the media in any way. So we had Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie. She steals the election, and no one even knew. That is how bad things are. Well, in the United States, what's going on right now is we have voting machines that were manufactured by Dominion Voting Machine Manufacturing, whatever, those guys in Toronto, whom have been charged criminally for and investigated thoroughly for election fraud. Those machines are very easy to use to rig an election. I've already proven this one a couple of times. And machines are running out of paper. There are power failures taking place, just like in Canada. Now there's power failures taking place all over the United States. Mesa, Arizona had announced that there were enough power failures taking place on their grid. Apparently, it's really hot there right now. It's not, but that's what they say. And there's brownouts and blackouts taking place across the region of Mesa, which is to the north of Phoenix. So they're telling people, well, go home. Don't bother staying in line. Don't vote. Just go home. Sorry, folks. But due to a fake power failure that we have deliberately caused, we are now taking away your democratic right to vote. So what we're hoping here, everybody, is that the Republicans take both the House and the Senate and impeach sleepy Joe Biden, who in turn has turned over the running of the United States of America directly to Xi Jinping of China. And that is a problem because America in Canada here, this is a Marxist, communist, left-wing dump. Canada is a clear and present danger to the United States of America because communist China runs the West Coast and radical Islam runs the center. So you're talking about the city of Toronto and all the surrounding areas. Let me name these towns for you. You've got right across from Buffalo, New York, we have Fort Erie. But then you follow that along all the way to Toronto, St. Catharines, Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, Mississauga, Toronto. Then continue on eastward into Scarborough, Pickering, Whitby, Oshawa. Then to the north of Toronto, you've got Vaughan, Maple, and Barrie. Now, what I've mentioned there signifies almost 8 million people. And radical Islam runs that entire section of the country. Believe me when I say this. There's a reason why there's a fatwa, an Islamic fatwa on my head in the province of Ontario. If I enter that province, I will be killed. That is how it works, everybody. Get used to the idea that communism is here and we need to at least try to vote it out. Now, a lot of you don't understand the House and the Senate. I know that we have a huge Canadian following on this show, and Canadians don't understand how their own House of Commons works. So there'd be no way for them to know how the three branches of U.S. government work. I'll run through it for the next 5 minutes because our guests are going to be coming in shortly, and we're going to be covering what is going on presently. So in the United States, you have three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. And in there, well, we have to go all the way back to the Constitution. Let's go right back to the writing of the U.S. Constitution. So before 1776, they were trying to figure out the best way to structure this new country that they were going to be forming, leaving the British in the dust. And fortunately, they did. So the Legislative Assembly is comprised of the United States Congress, where they write and pass all federal laws. So legislative body works with the House and the Senate. Now, I'm going to explain all this. You have the brief history when the founding fathers, when they were drafting the Constitution. So it wasn't just Constitution that they were drafting. It wasn't just laws of the land. It wasn't just human rights that they were drafting. They argued on what type of legislature they would have, and they thought about representation, where all states would have the same number of representatives, but then they also thought of representation based on population. Now, they couldn't come to a consensus. They could not agree on how this was going to work. So they went with both. That's right, two houses. So you have the House of Representatives and you have the Senate, both of which make up the legislative branch of the United States of America. So together, the two of them form Congress. And there's all the running jokes about Congress needs to be dissolved and blah, 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 whatever it is. And April, can you hear me? I know April's in the waiting room right now. You can hear me? Okay, I'm just going to run through what the Senate and the House are, and then I got to see where you're at. It looks like a huge party there. Right, so you'll find that the Senate, sorry, I got to backtrack a little bit more here. All of this you'll find in Article number 1 of the Constitution, where it tells you in the Constitution the history of this, but also what it defines. It defines functions, it defines powers, it defines parameters that Congress and its representatives can actually do. The limitation, the powers they have, and the limitations to those powers. April, I know you can hear me. I'm just, I'm going to bring you in about 5 minutes. Is that okay? You guys get a thumbs up? Okay, I think she heard me. So Congress, the responsibility is representing the interests of constituents, those who vote them in, working together to write laws, overseeing other lesser government agencies, and passing bills. So the first is, let's see, here's how Congress works. Sorry, I think we've got April trying to say something to me here. There we go. We've got the first is the lower house. It's called the House of Representatives. This is why we always say we want to win the House. All right. It has 435 elected officials within it, and each state is allotted a number of congressmen and congresswomen determined by the population of your state. To become a member of the House, you must be at least 25 years old, have lived in the USA for at least 7 years, and live in the state that you are planning to represent, and of course, win the election. That helps. Congressmen, they serve at 2-year terms, and they're up for election every even-numbered year. So the House is led by the Speaker of the House, who is elected by the House of Representatives. All right. Unfortunately, we have a psychopath in there now. Let's not even get into that. All right. And only the House of Representatives can initiate new tax laws and spending bills. And we have Doug Force joining us shortly here, folks. Doug, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. I'll bring you and April in about 5 minutes. There we go. Okay, perfect. So in only the House can initiate impeachment. And that is why the Republicans absolutely must win this thing. We have to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out of there. We just have to. So with them being allowed to do so, then we need to make sure we have this. So that's really what it boils down to. And the Democrats tried this with Trump. They just didn't have enough votes within the House of Representatives to do so. All right. So they not only can they impeach the president, but they also can impeach other government officials. Doesn't have to be just the president. So in the event also that if the Electoral College is unable to agree on who the president is, they will issue the deciding vote. They absolutely will do so. And the Senate is what we would call the upper house. It has only 100 representatives, 100 members in there, 2 from each state. So if you're planning on running for Senate, the rules are you have to be at least 30. You have to live in the USA for no fewer than 9 years, live in the state that you represent, and again, win the election. So unlike the House, senators will serve a 6-year term, not just 2, but 6. So in every even year, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. So it's not the entire country, it's 1/3 of the country. And that's why every 2 years in the US, we have an election, presidential, and then House and Senate. So senators are elected by we the people. However, prior to 1912, prior to the 17th Amendment being written, senators were elected by state legislators. Now, it remains to be seen which is better. I think they're having an easier time rigging these public elections than they are rigging elections that are done by government, but that's an opinion of mine, and I'm not going to get into that. The Vice President of the United States actually does have a secondary duty. They serve as the head of the Senate, and the Vice President only gets to cast 1 vote. That's it. So if there's a tie, President only gets 1 vote, or Vice President, I'm sorry. So the House of Representatives and the Senate, they have the exclusive power to approve presidential appointments and treaties. So if countries want to have a treaty with the states, that's where you'll find that activity taking place. What I was going to say here also, though, is the Senate, they are the ones that would try somebody. So if the House impeaches Biden, the Senate will have to try him. Again, very important. The Republicans run both after tonight, so they can impeach him, try him, and get him out. Right? So combined, the House and the Senate have the power to tax you, mint new currency, declare war, and regulate foreign and interstate commerce. They have that. Sorry, Derek, if you could please just text April or June, let her know that we'll have her come in about 10 minutes. Because, she just dropped out there. All right. Their mainstay seems to be writing and passing bills, even though they have all the powers that I've already listed for you. I mean, I guess they have to keep their jobs as cushy as possible. But as for getting a bill passed, a bill to create a new law can be written by either the House or the Senate. But before it can be voted on, it needs to get reviewed by a bunch of committees, and a whole bunch of amendments are made. So every time bill is written, there's a bunch of floor debates. So they cackle at each other, just like the House of Lords in Britain, just like the House of Commons in Canada here. It's a lot of showmanship. Most of it is not decided right there on the spot, but it's there to make us all think that they're doing something for us. So if there's a change that's made in any way to a bill, it has to go back for another vote. If it gets past all the voting and all the committees and all the cackling, it gets put onto the president's desk. He can sign it into law, or he can say nope and veto it, in which case the Senate and the House combined can reintroduce it. But they still have to get 2/3 majority vote to pass a bill into law that the president has vetoed. So that's the rundown. What I'm getting at here is that it's powerful. There's a lot of power in Congress, and those who control both control the United States of America. So what we'll do here is we're going to bring Doug Force in. Doug is renowned Canada-wide. You're still touring the country, I understand. You're an expert in allodial titles, and you follow politics intently, which you've done for a long time. Thanks for being here tonight. So, introduce yourself, and let's get going here.
Well, it's nice to be back with you again, Kevin. I've done a few shows with you in the past, and it's always been fun. And I remember the last U.S. election that you did, and I was on there for 6 hours with you. It's that election.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, yeah, and they couldn't. They needed to close down the polling stations and then block all the windows and drive the vans up to the back and unload all the votes for Mr. Biden. 81 million he got, the most in presidential history. I thought that was kind of but it wasn't stolen. No, gosh, no.
Yeah, well, we know exactly what happened. I think Joe Biden probably got something like 40 million realistically. Probably not even that. I
No.
don't necessarily believe for an instant that Democrats were out there actually voting. I think that there was a great number of Democrats who just stayed home because they knew it was going to be rigged anyway. And that's something that the left seems to be very comfortable with, is the fact that they are going to simply win because the right is not going to challenge it.
I was watching online, I believe it was Tucker Carlson the other day, where he was saying, was it him or that was somebody like him anyways, were saying that a lot of Canadians got mail-in ballots for the U.S. election this year.
No surprise. No surprise.
I thought that was funny, but yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing a Republican governor in New York State, because it looks like that will happen tonight, and I'm hoping Carrie Lake down in Arizona takes the governorship down there, because she seems to be a real pistol. Kind of on the lines of what's her name here, Danielle Smith here in Alberta.
Well, Danielle Smith remains to be seen. She's done a lot of talking. Yeah. However, I do like what she's saying. So let's find out how serious she is. One thing that this is the advice I would give to anybody in politics. The moment that you take office, you've got to find the easiest promise that you made to actually perform it. Danielle Smith actually indicated in the province of Alberta that she was going to issue retractions on things that were said negatively about people like myself, yourself, Pastor Archer Pawlowski, Chris Sky, and so on, and that she was going to be issuing pardons to everybody who got a criminal conviction from this nonsense about the fake pandemic, because we know that there was not a pandemic. They knew that too. This was a big experiment in behavior. So if she did come out and say, that's what I'll do, that's an easy one to do, it should already be done. Let me tell you this, for our American friends here. The 10 provinces, and Doug, you'll concur, I'm sure, the 10 provinces of Canada are actually independent countries. And the Dominion of Canada is it's a corporation that acts as not necessarily the glue, but the spit that holds it together. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to stop you there. The Dominion of Canada ended on December 11th, 1931. What we have today is the Government of Canada, Inc., which was consolidated or chartered in 1982. And so, we have sub-corporations of the parent corporation, which is a maritime jurisdictional corporation. And that was the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which was the incorporation document for the Government of Canada, Inc. And so, like I said, the Dominion of Canada ended in 1931, so there is no more Dominion of Canada. What I did want to say, because as you were saying with Danielle Smith, well, I watched Carrie Lake on an interview the other day, and she was asked the same question that you're now saying about Danielle Smith. She was asked, "What's the first thing that you're going to do if you get elected?" And she said, "The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the illegal immigrants coming across the border. We've got to stop this now." And she says, "In the first hour after my election, that's what I will be doing. I made this promise to the people. I will invoke that immediately once I'm elected." And I thought, wow, is that ever cool?
Well, it would be. You still got to do it, and that's I think the point that
hold her to her word.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Governors, as you know, in America, they're pretty powerful, but premiers actually have more power in their provinces than governors do in their states. I know this because when I was running for the mayorship of Calgary last year, just because they didn't want me winning, they decided to lock me up in a maximum security facility for 7 weeks, and the chief crown of the city of Calgary was told by the premier, Jason Kenney, keep that Johnston guy locked up. He admitted that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all that it takes to override the power of the courts is the premier says, I don't like that guy, put a bullet in his head, and it will be done. Governors can't necessarily do that. I mean,
oh, God,
you can sue them, and you'll probably win. Whereas in Canada, you can sue the guy, and he just gets tossed out the door. We actually have no power to fight the powers that be here. But
Understand,
Doug, go ahead.
understand that a governor in the United States is constitutionally there. They have the state constitution that gave them their position. Here in Canada, we don't have a constitution for the province of Alberta. We have a subcorporation owned by the parent corporation in Ottawa that controls this. We have no power here in Canada, where in the US, they have the people have the power in the state constitution, as well as supposed to have the power in the federal constitution. And I'm hoping tonight that the people's voice will be heard, and the federal constitution will come back into the hands of we the people.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that myself, because what we do need to consider, and I'm very serious when I said this earlier in the show already, is that Canada is a clear and present danger to the United States. And you know, when they had me locked up in this maximum security facility, there were a number of books that I was able to get my hands on. I had to trade sandwiches for books. That's how little they gave us to do in there. But the books that were being written were all espionage spy novels. And it was incredible that I read 4 of them, where the authors, 4 different authors, 4 different types of story, but in these novels had all indicated that terrorists can very freely enter the United States from Canada because of Canada's stupid multicultural policies and stupid immigration policies. You know, the whole idea is with multiculturalism is to erode the rights of everybody who built this country, who are the descendants of those folks, and just hand them off to someone else who doesn't deserve them, and then punish those like me. I've had 7 months of jail time because of it. Punish people like me who tell the truth about it. But Doug, let's get into the United States here right now. I want to get your take on Congress, and I want to get your take on what's happened with Joe Biden for the last 2 years. Like just go. You've got the floor.
Joe Biden is I'm sorry to say, but he is a joke. He makes no decisions. He signs the executive orders, but other people write them. Congress is nothing more than a joke now as well. The Senate and the House, simply run by the Democrats, who are what we call woke, and their whole agenda on green energy. I mean, you just look at what Biden had to say leading into this election, that we are going to shut down fossil fuels. We are going to make sure that the Green New Deal is what we're doing, and that's really nothing more than Agenda 2030. And if you look at the 17 points that they had under Agenda 21, 2030, and you look at the Green New Deal, it's just a name change. And so they're going to try to institute that. Now, I'm hoping that with a Republican House and a Republican Senate, they can reverse all of this. I mean, if it's true that they have less than 25 days of diesel fuel left, we here in Canada are going to be in big trouble. Where do we get our fresh fruit and vegetables from in the wintertime? Well, they come in from California. Mexico and Central America. Well, Mexico and Central America as well. Yes, some of them can come in by ships into Vancouver and into the East Coast, possibly through the Panama Canal and then up. But at the end of the day, most of it is trucked, and most of it comes in through either rail infrastructure, which are diesel electric, or trucks, which are just diesel. And if it actually is true, because of the pandemic and the shutdown of several refineries in the U.S. and not getting started back up again, this is what's put them into that position. We could be very much in harm's way here in Canada for that, along with the United States, of course, would be in desperation, because once again, how do they get their food transported? No, you're muted. You're muted.
And here.
There we go.
All right. So the way that it functions here with the growing season obviously begins in Latin America, followed by Mexico, followed by California, followed by Oregon, followed by Washington State, followed by the rest of Canada. And we know that Southern Ontario is lucky in that Toronto is further south than something like a third of the population of the United States. It actually is quite far south compared to other cities. In fact, folks, you may not know this, but when you're looking at Detroit and Windsor, the two cities that are across border from each other, Detroit is actually north of Windsor, not west. So, but what I'm getting at is you are correct. Everything you said is correct. we require diesel fuel for either trains or trucks to get produce to Canada. I mean, I'm spoiled right now in that there seems to be this massive influx of kale and peppers and apples into Alberta right now. That could very easily stop.
Oh,
If the Democrats take the House and the Senate, that could very quickly stop, because Alberta, first, the winters suck. It's minus 25 Celsius today. It's horrible, and the growing season, as a result of that kind of weather, is about 4.5 to 5 months. And Alberta is mostly a root growing place, so it's not like we have fruit trees here. It's mostly it's potatoes, it's carrots, it's things like that. So we need this, and we have to make sure that we're protecting democracy, and we need to make sure that Americans have caught on to the fact that Canadian elections have been rigged 3 times in a row now. So, and yours once in a row that we know of. Let's not make it 2 in a row. Let's do something about this.
And it's funny, you use the word democracy, and Tucker Carlson uses the word democracy, and CNN uses the word democracy, and the Biden administration uses the word democracy. And I said, have you guys never read the Constitution? Because please point out in your Constitution where it actually claims you're a democracy. It does not. The United States is a republic. It's not a democracy.
Yeah, I think in most cases democracy is utilized as the term of endearment, seeing as we've been told from a very young age that to vote is democratic. Like that's pretty much how it's worded.
Yeah, but they should, especially in the U.S., the U.S. should be very clear on the verbiage that they're using when they're describing what they have, and they have a republic, and it's a democratic republic. It's not a democracy where 51% rule over 49. That's why the founding fathers created a republic, to stop that 51 over 49. And I'll tell you the other term that they use down there, which I find absolutely amazing, that these people don't read their own constitution, and they keep calling them the news talking heads call these people American citizens, except they're not. There's no citizenship conferred on anybody within the Constitution. They're either an American or they're a U.S. citizen under 14th Amendment, but there's no such thing as an American citizen. That's like saying you're a sovereign citizen. You're an oxymoron. You're either a sovereign or you're a citizen. And the first 3 words of that U.S. Constitution says, we the people. Who are the sovereigns? Well, that's the people themselves. So they can't be citizens.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I was told by a number of Americans that the best thing in the world to do if you decide to move to the United States is to become a U.S. national and not a U.S. citizen, at least according to the way it's defined. The way citizenship is defined. We got Ed Janisek joining us now. Ed, beard looks good.
Like your beard. Like the beard, Ed? Oh, my goodness. You're going to be Santa Claus this Christmas.
I'm thinking about it. Really,
cool beans.
About it. We know the economy's taking a tank. It's going to be slowly going down. There's also many people predicting next spring will be a bad economy. And with the price of oil, you betcha it's going to be a nasty economy. So, Kevin, can you get Derek to reinsert all the connectors on the soundboard? Your mic sounds like a dirty connector or a broken cable.
You're talking my mic or yours?
It's good now. What happened?
He's bunking with it right now. You said do it. He's doing it. He's a good boy that way.
It's good. Leave it.
Yeah,
it's good.
He's a very good boy. Yes, for sure. Listen, everybody, before we get too far into this, we've had a couple of updates to what's going on with us in our studio here. First off, we have a brand new address for everyone to send whatever you'd like to send our way. Yeah, by all means, if you want to send checks, money orders, gift cards, gifts, profanity, you're allowed to send whatever you want. This is our new address. It is on KevinJJohnston.ca on the contact page. You could reach me here. You can reach Derek here. You can reach any member of the Kevin J. Johnston team. You can send mail to this new address. And Trump has launched his platform with great success. A couple of days ago, he made it accessible in Canada. So I joined truth.social. So there you go, truthsocial.com/Kevin J or at Kevin J. Johnston. It's a phenomenal platform, folks. And you're not going to believe this, but I'm actually back on Twitter. Like Elon Musk comes in, buys it up, and I'm on Twitter. I've been there for a couple of weeks. I've said about 1,900 things to upset lefties, and it's still active. It's still there.
I'm still banned. What the hell?
You're still banned? Well, open up a new account. There you go.
Really?
Well, that's what I did. All right.
You've heard of the ADL. Doug, can you tell people who the ADL is?
The Anti-Defamation League? Are you kidding me? Those people are, I'm not going to get into that. No, I'm not going to tell people who they are, because then I'm going to get all of us banned off of social media, period, for the rest of our lives.
Okay, try not to get us banned, but the ADL...
So you want to know who the ADL are? So listen to what Kanye West had to say.
Okay. And these are going to be the people that will be taking care of the censorship on Twitter. It's one of the groups. Yep.
Well, and Southern Poverty as well. He was talking to those guys too, along with the ADL.
So it's something similar to what the Canadian Anti-Hate Network?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So guys, don't get your hopes up for Twitter. Not for too long.
Not for too long, but I am having fun. And Hesham has asked a question there about, did Elon reinstate my first account? No. Why don't you, all of you, ask him to do so? Right there. Kevin the Jackal. Let's do that. I had 16,000 followers, I think, when it was taken down. And then they took another 10 or 11 accounts down. Absolutely crazy. All right, we got to get into what's going on now in the States. Derek, can you play the video, please? I think the Democrats know that they're in trouble here. CNN had this to say. Derek, throw this.
First votes, and that's the wonder of democracy, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And I wanted to point that out to be a little bit of the crank in the room following Brianna there. Stay off social media, people. If you're trying to figure out, are there really issues with votings? Trust your local officials. Trust us here. Trust a news source that you know and trust to be honest about this. They're doing their jobs and they're doing it right. So what was Brianna just talking about? She was talking about Cobb County, Georgia. That is right up here, just outside of Atlanta.
Take that off. So did you hear that? Don't go on social media, because we are terrified as left-wing nuts that the Democrats are going to win. So we don't want you to know that there are problems with the voting machines. We don't want you to know what your rights are. The voting machines are not working. This is what they've said, essentially. And I suspect we're going to hear a lot more of this. Derek, also, if you could please bring up the Politico site where we see who's in the lead right now. There we go. That's the one there. Let's get that full screen. So that stands right now. We've got the Democrats up 40-37. But the vote is by no means over, not in any way. All right. Let's get your take on that, guys. What do you think so far?
Go ahead, Doug.
No, go ahead. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the Eastern Seaboard is now, getting close to. When do they close the Eastern Seaboard? 8 o'clock.
Depending on the state, some are 8, some are 8:30. There's a couple I think are 9, but we'll find that out in a second here for you. Go ahead.
So they're still tabulating the votes, and they're going to slow that down until after midnight, when they can close the doors and block the windows and back up the vans with all the mail-in voters forms that they filled out from the graveyards and so forth, because after all, the dead have to vote, and the dogs and the cats and so forth. So that's what the Democrats do. They make sure that every living and dead person has the right to vote, and every living and dead pet has the right to vote.
Well, it's also every Canadian who got a card. I'm pretty sure Mexicans got some too. I wouldn't be surprised if Cubans got some mailing cards, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it could be some Europeans as well. Who knows? English might want to get involved in this election, because Mr. Sunak over there is definitely in line with Mr. Biden in what he wants to have done. Did you see today at COP24, Sunak actually dedicated $1 trillion to combat global warming from the English government? Yeah, over a 10. They're going to do it over a 10-year period, $100 billion a year of taxpayer borrowed money.
Yeah, where's it going to be spent? That's the big question there.
Well, already in Nigeria, he said, or no, Kenya, they're building a brand new train station in Nigeria, or no, in Kenya, for the Green New Deal, right? So he's already put $1 billion out today for that.
You guys ever heard of Tim Ball?
Yep, I sure have. Dr. Tim Ball.
I have not.
He's a pretty cool cat. He's the smartest man on planet Earth when it comes to climate change.
And what did he have to say about all this, Doug?
This is all fraud, and he proved it.
Oh,
and he proved it.
We have a clip that we wanted to show you that climate change. Well, first off, we knew there was no pandemic. We know there's only two sexes. We know the planet's round. Like we know these things, everybody. But nonetheless, it's still nice to hear CNN get shot down in flames. If we could please get the video up with CNN. It's an interview about 6 years ago with the founder of the Weather Network. I believe is Mr. Cole is his name. He just absolutely just wipes the floor with them. Like he has CNN just Porky Pig could ever be. So if we can get that video, it's actually very amusing stuff. Derek is he's got the same problem that I'm having. Our laptops are very old and they overheat when we do video, so they slow down more towards the end of the evening. They're like dead stop. But we did have to say thank you to Mrs. Mars. I hope I got the pronunciation correct. Your name is spelled bizarrely, but the consensus here that your last name is Mars, M-A-R-S-Z-Z, Mars. That's what we assume. Thank you. Thank you for purchasing brand new internet for us here at the. So we really do appreciate that. We complained about our internet last time. All of you complained last time. So we do appreciate that all of you out there are still willing to help us. You can always donate there. Donate today. freedomreport.ca@gmail.com for email money transfers. And of course, KevinJJohnston.ca is where you can donate there with a credit card. All right, let's play this video.
First, let me bring in John Coleman. He's in San Diego this morning. Thank you for being here.
It's nice to be on CNN. Hello to all your viewers. I resent you calling me a denier. That is a word meant to put me down. I'm a skeptic about climate change. And I want to make it darn clear, Mr. Kenny's not a scientist. I am. He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now, hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney. And yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform. And I regret it's become political instead of scientific. But the science is on my side.
I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion about the topic right here. What I do wonder, though, is when you see
you wouldn't allow it to happen on CNN. But I'm happy that I got on the air and got a chance to talk to your viewers. Hello, everybody. There is no global warming.
What I do want.
Amazing. And that's the founder of the Weather Network saying that. Just like if you listened a couple of years ago, the founder of Greenpeace came out and said that there is no global warming and that forests have completely recovered and there's nothing to worry about. Whereas the Democrats in the United States and, of course, the liberals here are continuing to tell us that is all that we have. No more trees. They're all gone, they're saying. Global warming is a real thing, they say. You have to pay more tax, they say. And I think Americans have caught on to the fact this is a lie. In fact, climate scam has been trending now all day on Twitter, and they're all fed up in its entirety. So Doug, go ahead.
I got a quote for you. This is from Alexander King and Bertram Schneider. Admit the lie of anthropogenic global warming, needing to create man as the enemy. And this is the quote: "The common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself."
That's quite interesting. And I bet you that's what, 120 years old?
But no, that's from the 1990s.
Okay, but they were saying the same thing back around the 1890s and 1900s when they were trying to put a tax on cattle because they knew about methane even back then. And they were even doing that scare tactic over 100 years ago. 120 years ago, people.
I talked to a science teacher. She taught elementary science, grade 6 and 7. And I thought it was kind of funny because she was talking about how the cows create all this methane here in Canada that causes global warming. And I asked her a very simple question. I said, between the 1840s and the 1860s, there were 63 million buffalo here in North America, and they produced 3 times the amount of methane that a cow produces, 63 million. And today we have 43 million cows. So how are 43 million cows and their methane release creating global warming when 63 million bison or buffalo back in the 1840s through the 1860s didn't create global warming, and they create 3 times the methane? She didn't like that very much because actual science, she got pissed off with me and turned around and walked away.
Well, I've listened to these problems all the time there, Doug, is that you bring up the fact that the country is fine. We just covered this with Mike Martins a couple of weeks ago, that there's 1.4 trillion trees in North America. Trees have recovered immensely, and we're not putting enough carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Yet the Democrats are still stating that it's going to be carbon tax, carbon tax, carbon tax. That's all that they're talking about, is making sure that they have a carbon tax. Why? Well, it's moving of wealth. That's all that it is. It's stealing money from the common man, who seemingly in Canada as well, Canadians don't know any better and don't want to hear it when somebody brings everything up. In fact, everyone's first reaction to a term like there's no air pollution in, let's say, Edmonton, they get angry. Now, I've said things on the Calgary train. There's a light rail transit in this town, and I'll tell people that Trump's the best president that ever existed in the States, and people just get enraged. There is no global warming. They get enraged. What was the other one we said? Oh, yes. Barack Obama was the worst president in American history until Joe Biden. And again, Canadians are angry on trains. It is absolutely bizarre how angry the individuals out there are getting based on what the news is telling them. So, really, everybody.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ on Trump being the best president of the United States. I actually think Thomas Jefferson was the best president of the United States.
You know what I mean.
Oh, in modern day. Okay, in modern day.
Jefferson never had to deal with social media, left-wing politics, all these brand new countries all around the world that had strife everywhere. He certainly did not have to deal with Don Lemon on CNN. He just
Don Lemonhead is no longer on primetime CNN. He has to be up at 2:00 in the morning to do a show at that starts at 6 a.m. And that show actually had they actually did it for 1 week and it just got canceled.
Yeah, good. It was something about nose picking, but whatever. That's all.
Yeah, but they had no viewers.
There we go. So I just got a note here. April LeJeune is popping in. April LeJeune is our American friend who's in the central U.S., been a journalist for years. She is covering the election now. April, can you hear us okay? Not quite, it seems. April?
It's a little swirly thing.
She's at one of the polling stations right now. So we want to get a take on what's really going on in the US of A. So Canada, why is it important? Like this, we are all three of us right now in Canada. Why is it important that we follow what the Americans do? Well, like Doug said about 20 minutes ago, is that if diesel fuel runs out, which it will under the Democrat watch, you're not getting fruits and vegetables in the winter from California, Costa Rica, Mexico. You're just not. There won't be enough diesel to power trains and trucks to get it here. And ships, they're worse. I mean, a cruise ship costs almost $1.1 million to fill the tank with fuel before it leaves on a cruise. That's just fuel, never mind staff and food. So think about it, everybody. It is absolutely important that we follow what America is doing. We do want Trump back. We want the Republicans back, and we want the Democrats out. And we want that out because this left-wing nonsense that they're forcing on us, which is all lies about global warming actually being a thing, about a pandemic actually having happened. These things are not true, but the Democrats are working in conjunction with Trudeau's Liberals and, of course, Xi Jinping of China to ensure that we pay through the nose in taxes and fees for these non-existent problems. All right, that's
and you've got to be. I was going to say you got to be careful by saying all Republicans, because the Republicans are infiltrated by rhinos, and the rhinos are actually Democrats wrapped in a red banner.
That's not good.
So you've got to be very careful.
Hey, April. April of June, can you hear us?
April, can you hear us?
Uh-oh, did she freeze?
It's frozen. Yeah, she's frozen.
Oh,
there she goes.
Unmute the mic. Okay, April. Okay, April, you muted your own microphone there. Can you unmute it? There we go. Go ahead.
I can hear you.
Okay, where are you now? April, where are you now? Where in America are you right now?
I know that I have good signal.
April, can you turn off your
You
camera?
guys have to do your audio.
April, we're not hearing anything you're saying. If you could turn the camera off and just go audio, that might work. I think we lost her. Oh man.
Yeah.
So she said there's good things happening. That sounds encouraging. So we'll get her back in shortly, folks.
So, Kevin, did you cover the salty cracker videos of what's going on in California yet?
Well, I watched the video today. I mean, we learned that in Mesa, Arizona, they had fake power failures. They were telling people to go home. California apparently was putting people with dogs outside of voting booths and having the dogs bark at people coming in to vote. We had that. We have an excessive amount of human feces right now in San Francisco.
Well, that's Scat Francisco. That's what they call it now. It's called Scat Francisco. You're muted. You're muted.
Moving on up.
Okay, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can hear you.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I think this is the way I'm supposed to. Is that
Kevin,
better?
you're muted. Your microphone muted.
Well, I can't really do anything with my mic because I'm on my phone. That would have to be you.
Well, April,
Hi.
you're roboting a lot. Hello. Was wondering if you could use the headset and turn off your camera.
Hold on. Let me see if I can get to a different location so I can hear what you're saying. Because I can hear that you're talking, and I know you're asking me a question, but I just don't know what it is. So hang on just a second. Let me see if I can go over here. Okay. It's a little dark, but that's okay. All right, go.
Sounds much better. What's going on? Where are you?
Okay, I am at Aaron's Pub on 291 in Independence, Missouri, and we're watching the election results, and the absentee ballots just came in. They're all Democrats, okay? So, for example, every single one down the line is all the Democrats are winning. But you got to remember, I am in a place in Jackson County, Missouri, where if they lose this county, that means they lose the entire state. So what we did is we took screenshots of all of the results for the absentee, and we're going to compare them for when the results come in, as far as like whether it changes or not. I personally don't expect it to change, because what's been happening in Jackson County is every time the absentee ballot comes in, it doesn't change. It stays exactly like that. Even if more votes come in, it doesn't matter. It's still the same. So that's how they're rigging it.
That's a problem.
We expect them to rig it. Yeah.
Is there any policing going on right now anywhere in the central USA? Like, are they actually monitoring the election boxes right now?
Well, they say that they're doing it in Arizona, but I don't believe it, because in Maricopa County already, every place where there's basically GOP stronghold, the machines are going down. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing how it's only in GOP areas?
Sounds like Canada, where the machines were going down all the time. Go ahead.
Well, see, that's the thing, is we're not stupid, and we already know that this was going to happen. We already knew that and I said this, like, I think on my show like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, look, here's what's going to happen. They're going to say that it's a red wave and it's all across the country and all these places that don't matter. They're going to make sure that it stays blue in the places where they can gain power and keep power. Because they can't, like I said, if they lose Jackson County, Missouri, and St. Louis County, Missouri, they lose the entire state. If they just lose one of those counties, they lose the entire state. And they know it.
Wow. Okay, so let me ask you this. What strategies are the Democrats using right now to cheat in the central U.S.?
Mail-in ballots, for sure, in different places, not in Jackson County, because we don't have mail-in ballots here, but all across the United States. Mail-in ballots is the biggest thing. Manipulating the tabulators, because there's a thumb drive in the tabulators, okay? That thumb drive is already set to whatever it's going to be. So, for example, in Jackson County, there's a thumb drive in every single tabulator that there is, all right? So even if I cast my vote, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to make a difference, because the tabulator is already set by the thumb drive. So once the people go and they vote, and that, let's say they calculated that 1,000 people would vote, but only 760 people vote. They've already tabulated, they've already fixed the thumb drive to do a percentage of the vote so that it looks like, oh, Democrats barely squeaked by, which isn't true. Republicans are actually doing a landslide all across the country, but they're going to be cheated out of this election because it's already preset.
All right. Now, we had a very interesting race taking place here between Fetterman and Dr. Oz. Now, it's amazing how much coverage, free coverage, that Fetterman has received. This guy had a stroke, eight or 9 months ago, and instead of recovering, he's going out and he's running, and he sounds just like Sleepy Joe, where he stumbles on every sentence and every word, but CNN gives him more coverage than any other candidate in the country. So what's going on? Well, what strategy are they playing at here?
It's not a strategy. It's just sensational TV. I mean, you guys are in entertainment, you know. It's sensationalized TV.
Well, we're in entertainment, but in Canada, if you're too entertaining, you go to jail. So we don't do too much of that.
It doesn't matter here. Obama put an executive order in place that means that they can lie to you and it doesn't make any difference. But now they're even past lying because they don't care. They're just strong arm you. Not only that, we've had threats against Republican candidates, like physical threats. Okay. So, for example, for the last week, I couldn't stay at my house because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I decided that it would be better if I didn't stay at my house for this last week, because not only was Antifa trying to dox myself and someone else, we had the liberal news media trying to catch pictures of us to try to make sure that they could be sensationalized again. So this is a whole entire orchestrated show. And Fetterman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Here's one thing about evil. They have to tell you what they're doing before they do it. They have to. And by what's going to happen is the American people are once again going to consent by not uprising against this stuff. They're not going to take out these politicians like they should have. The only way to overwhelm the system is to overwhelm them with our vote. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it can even happen because they've anticipated that we're going to overwhelm them with the vote.
Well, they anticipated that Trump was going to overwhelm Biden in the federal vote, and that's exactly what happened.
I don't think they thought that it was going to be as big as it was. And I think that's why they had to stop the entire election so that they could go out and make more ballots. I don't think they actually knew that. I think they thought that it was going to be somewhat, like even if they calculated 50% more voting than what actually they thought would vote, they didn't know that it was going to be such a landslide that it would cause them to have to go out and literally in the middle of the night go out and manufacture ballots to bring them in by trucks. This time, people have a heads up. What?
Go ahead.
That's what happened with the 2,000 Mules in the movie. They documented all that, right?
Yes. And they do it all the time. And the American people, see, the American people are so thwarted by law enforcement because you got to remember the Democrats or the cabal, whatever you want to call them, because it's really the uniparty here, control law enforcement. Okay. And what they've been doing is taking people and making examples out of them. So that makes the average American go, oh my God, I don't want them to storm my house. I don't want them to come in and yank me out of here. And then you take consideration the January 6th people who didn't do anything wrong. Okay, it was the FBI who did something wrong. It was the Antifa who did something wrong. It was orchestrated by Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party. The entire thing with this violence, okay, was totally orchestrated by them. Putting it on us, going and arresting people who had nothing. It is not against the law in the United States of America to express your opinion. It is not against the law in the United States of America to go to the Capitol and protest. It's not against the law. But they're arresting people anyway, so they're making examples of them. That scares the American people because that means that if I am sitting in my house and I go to a school board meeting, for example, and they've done this too, that means I'm going to get a knock on my door by the feds, and they're going to ask me what I was doing at that school board meeting. We've got this Gestapo here. And the American people have never experienced this. We've got 4 generations of people who have never experienced this before, so they don't know how to handle it. And then we've got, and I've said this before, the churches sitting there and telling their congregations, you don't want to get involved in politics because it's turned the other cheek. Well, that's why we're here today.
Well, I've noticed that all the Christian churches, with the exception of 2 or 3 that I can think of offhand, they have all kowtowed. They've all given in and given up. They all put up with the masking nonsense and the lockdown nonsense, and now they're putting up with what the Democrats are doing to America. And what is being done to America is it's a coup, essentially. That was a coup, not an election in 2020. And the same thing is happening here now. Look, there's no other way to word this. We all know that America is fed up with left-wing nonsense. America, Canada, everybody in the West is so over the top sick of hearing about the fact that boys are girls and girls are boys. We want to go back to work. We want to work hard and get paid a fair wage. And the one thing that America right now is not experiencing that we are in Canada is the money laundering with properties. So you and I talked about this. You can buy a 2,000 square foot house in Houston, Texas for $190,000, but you can buy a 1,200 square foot house here in Calgary for $450,000, and in Toronto $880,000. So it's out of control. America's not, you're not there yet, but you will be, especially after the
Oh,
Democrats.
we will be. We will be. Absolutely. If we lose this midterm, see that most of the time, the people don't think of the midterm as being anything that important, but it actually is, because, and the Democrats know that it is, because if they lose power on the local level, see, the House and the Senate, they don't count that much. It's not that big of a deal. It's the local level that is worse, okay? Because we could thwart a lot of things that the federal government is doing. We actually could, on our local level, because the thing about America is every level is sovereign, okay? Every level can say what it wants to do as far as its community is concerned. Now, you have state senators and state house representatives that say that that's not true. The county has to do what we say. That's not true. The county can reject what the state says if they want to, because we have something called a sheriff. And the sheriff is the actual power and the law when it comes to enforcing constitutional rights. So the state is absolutely wrong on that issue. But if you ask them, they'll say that's not true, but it is. So if we had a constitutional sheriff, we could change our entire county. We don't have a constitutional sheriff.
All right. I just want to cover quickly here the sheriff. You're talking about duly elected leaders of police all across the United States who can choose not to enforce a ridiculous federal law or federal order. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. The local sheriff has a constitutional duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state, whatever state they're in. That is their duty. It is not to enforce policies. It is not to uphold statutes that are unconstitutional. That's not what they're supposed to do. So they can tell the feds and the state to get lost, especially if it's not constitutional under the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States. And also, every single state has a constitution that says that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
All right. So what you're saying here is that it requires the cooperation of a duly elected sheriff to cooperate with illegal and improper, unjust, unlawful orders or instructions. But how many sheriffs will actually do that? How many of them will risk? Go ahead.
We have an association of constitutional sheriffs, but see, we've got over 3,000 some odd counties in the United States, and we do not have over 3,000 some odd that are part of that constitutional sheriff pack, if you want to say, if you want to call it that. And that's how, one of the ways that you can tell whether or not you have a constitutional sheriff is if they've joined the constitutional sheriff pack in the United States, and we don't have one.
Okay, well, therein lies another problem.
Wow. Because nobody will run against them. They get strong-armed out of the race. It's the same with the judges here. We just had a whole ballot full of, I want to say, 15 judges that we were supposed to vote. Should this judge retain their position? Which I voted no on all of them. Okay? I will always vote no on all of them until we get constitutional judges. Well, those judges don't uphold the Constitution. They uphold the corporation. There's a difference. Statutes aren't necessarily constitutional. And that's why in American law, I don't know what it is in Canada, but in American law, precedent is super important to them. And precedent means that if a judge prior to has already ruled on this particular subject, not necessarily the Supreme Court, they're supposed to go by whatever that precedent is. So if the precedent is unconstitutional, they'll use it. If the precedent itself goes along the statute line that makes them stay in power, they'll go with that. So you're screwed no matter what you do.
Okay, well, sad I had higher hopes for America, considering how much time I've spent in the United States and how easy it is to make money in the United States. And I think that might be coming to an end as well, based on the policies that'll be brought in.
We'll talk about the digital reset. The digital, on December 13th, Biden is put it in the executive order, a Digital Responsibility Act, which is set to make sure that all the currency is turned to digital. Now, I don't know how quickly they're going to institute that, but they could actually tell, all the banks could send out letters and notification to all of their people that have banks and say, if you need to bring your money in by this period of time, otherwise it's going to be obsolete. Okay?
That's happening in Canada starting next year.
Yeah. And so when they do that, that means that all the Federal Reserve notes, which don't have any value anyway, are going to be even less valuable. Okay?
Well, I get that too. So maybe what you could do is start letting Americans know that the Canadian Digital Currency Act was passed during the Trucker Convoy Emergency Act, which was illegal to instate in the first place. And that means our currency will be switching to not a digital coin, but a digital token that will A, expire at some point so you can't build wealth, and B, can be turned off at a moment's notice because it will not be blockchain. It will be a private network, which is horrible. So I really hope America doesn't go down that road. And I know with Republicans, it wouldn't. I know that Trump said that he didn't want to have Bitcoin become a national currency and that he would fight that. That's good. America should have its own money. But my thoughts and my question is now, if the Democrats do win today, and right now it's looking neck and neck, if they do win today, what's going to happen with the collaborative efforts now of other countries to have a stronger currency than the U.S. currency? So we're talking Brazil, Russia, China, and a few others are all ganging up on the U.S. to have a stronger currency. What happens to America then? Go ahead.
It's already going to be crushed. It's going to be crushed. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, we have a guy who's sitting in the seat, or hijacked the seat, I might say, of the presidency. It's been hijacked. Okay, and he is dead set to destroy the United States of America. He is beholden to China. He is making money through China. What he's so stupid, and the Democrats are so stupid, is they don't understand that they're already in the Chinese corral. Okay, so the Chinese don't have to do much effort. All they have to do is have compliant, pathetic, criminal people put in positions. And I don't know if you know this or not, but China is absolutely a manipulator in our elections. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, ours too.
Okay. Okay, so all they have to do is put their puppets in place, and those puppets will do whatever China wants. What the puppets don't understand is China is going to burn them first. You know what I mean? Because they're already in the corral.
Because he would have to. And like Mao Zedong, he did that with students. He had university students beating up their teachers and their parents, and he was the first one to imprison those first when he finally took power and defeated the Chinese National Army. Yeah, that's what will happen. And China will certainly sink them in that way. So, April, and what do you think the chances are that the election will be fair today?
Well, that's never going to happen. No. They're going to do the same thing that they always do, make it seem like it's neck and neck until the very last minute. And then one of them will barely squeak by. And it could be the Republicans barely squeaking by. But those people that are barely squeaking by are the Uniparty. They're already rhinos. I mean, it does kind of worry me a little bit about Carrie Lake, and I'll just tell you, because Carrie Lake sounds good. They all sound good when they're first doing stuff. And she could be a Ron DeSantis. But who knows? What is the end result? Why are they so powerful? I don't know how long you've been in journalism, but I know it's been quite a while. And of all people know, once you get past city council, you got a lot of compromising to do to get up that high.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm saying. Anybody that high up, I have to wonder about.
Well, you kind of cracked the joke there about it being neck and neck. Let's have a quick look at some of the numbers here. Right now we're at 41-40 in favor of the Democrats. And if you come down here, it says who's winning the Senate right now. The red is GOP leading and or one. That would be red for the Republicans, and blue would be for the Dems. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 for Republicans. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there for the Dems leading and or one, plus of course everything that's in between. Like this one here frightens me. We have Pennsylvania for U.S. Senator. We have Fetterman and Dr. Oz. How is Fetterman at 63% right now? How?
Cheating.
Yeah, it has to be.
Cheating.
First off,
it's like I certainly want a huge, inept, handicapped guy who doesn't have a brain in his head and he has to be told what to say as my representative. Absolutely, because Oprah Winfrey told me so.
Well, unfortunately, celebrities in the United States have a lot more influence over people's decisions than they should, but I blame Americans, the people watching, for that. I don't blame the celebrity. I mean, if someone was to sit there and give me $100 billion to say,
I mean, how can you possibly blame the celebrity when it's the person who is following the celebrity who is actually to blame?
Yeah, well, I don't blame the celebrity at all. I mean, I'll insult them on Twitter now that I'm allowed to, but there's nothing more that I can do beyond that. I'm certainly not going to listen to them. I'm not taking political advice from any celebrity. I'm just going to enjoy the smart ones like Kanye West, for example. And I love what he's doing. That more cancel culture, and I thought cancel culture was coming to an end. Nonetheless, let's get your take on this. I mean, Fetterman, as you've mentioned here, he was dumb before the stroke. He's dumber now.
Yes.
He's completely disabled. If he wins, what does that mean for the Eastern United States? That's Pennsylvania. We're talking Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Well, I can tell you, I've always thought that Pennsylvania was probably the most corrupt state in the union, more so than New York and California, because they have less brain dead people in Pennsylvania than they do in New York and California, which means they need more corruption. If Fetterman wins that state, somebody better be looking at that election. Somebody better be tracking that stuff. There needs to be a forensic audit in every single precinct across the entire state of Pennsylvania, because there's no way that people, I think the majority of people, I mean, you just think of it as popularity. Okay, let's say that Fetterman walked in here and there was a group of people that didn't know Fetterman, and there was a group of people that didn't know Dr. Oz, and they both started talking about stuff and people were asking them questions. It's kind of like the extremely stupid, inept, wannabe nerd coming into the room and the extremely well-spoken, suave, debonair guy who can charm everybody. Those two. Everybody is going to go for the debonair, suave guy. And they're going to tell the other guy, you need to get lost. It's like, I'm just thinking about my girlfriend, okay? When I was young, and if Dr. Oz walked in and Fetterman walked in, and we're sitting at a table at a bar, let's say, and my girlfriends are sitting there, and we look at these two guys that are coming in, we're going to immediately tell Fetterman to get lost. Like, excuse me? Who the hell are you? Why are you even talking to me? Get the hell out and take your little minions too. Okay, that's what my girlfriends would have said. And we would have said, Dr. Oz, would you like to have a seat? I mean, come on. That's just human nature.
Well, he's a frighteningly crazy-eyed guy to look at. I certainly do understand
Fetterman, before the stroke, Fetterman already looked like, I don't know if you know this, but there's a company in Hollywood that literally casts freaks, okay, for movies. That's Fetterman, okay? Fetterman could have gotten a job as a freak in a movie super easy. Like, you were the monster dude, okay? He would have probably made more money than what he's making right now.
I got you.
He's definitely big enough to be somebody like Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That would be.
I know. And the hoodie doesn't help.
James Bond, yeah.
The hoodie does not help. It actually makes it worse.
So, April, have you heard about a guy that's in jail that's running for governor in Florida?
No, but that's funny.
There's a guy that was arrested because of January 6th. He's in jail. His team outside of jail is actually pushing him to get elected. I don't know if it's for governor or what's the other position you can get down there right now in this election.
Well, Senate.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Let's bring the Florida vote up right now. Give me a second there.
See if I can recognize the name.
It'd be funny if he's winning.
So there you go. Yeah, Rubio.
No, not Rubio.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. So it's not Rubio.
He said governor. That's Senate.
The name escapes me right now, but the guy is a contender.
Well, yeah, his agent contacted me, but I contacted them back because I would love to have had an interview from jail, but it's too late now. Here's election day. Nonetheless, April, I want to go back to what you had said about the Republicans are going to hold a seat until the very last minute. Let's go to Florida for a second here. We're at 87% of the vote is in, and Rubio, is at 57.5% by ahead of Demings of the Democrats at 41.4. Do you think that number is going to shift?
No.
You think that one's secure?
No, I don't think that's going to shift. I think if anything shifts, it's going to be something that's not going to matter that much. It's the same thing that they did with the Virginia governor. Okay. They had Virginia was running, and there was another New York state. I mean, not New York, but there was another East Coast state that was running at the same time. And one of the people that was running for governor would have been a bigger threat to the Democrats than the guy who won in Virginia. And so in order to make the Republicans think that they were having some win and victory, they gave the seat to that governor in Virginia rather than the other guy. And I can't remember what the other guy's name was and what state he was running in. But I remember thinking to myself, there is no way they're going to allow that guy to win. Because if they do, he's going to be a huge thorn in the side of the federal government and the Democrats. And sure enough, the Virginia guy won because he was a guy who would compromise. He's a guy who was a little bit more compliant than the other one. So when they give you a small win, the Republicans go, yay, we're making it happen. We're winning. And we're not really winning because we can't get anything done. It looks like we have the majority on paper, but we can't get anything done.
So is it possible that even if the Republicans win today, the House and the Senate, it could just be inconsequential, that it could just be for looks? Or do you think that we can actually get something done?
No, I think it's going to be totally for looks. I think it's going to be absolutely for looks. It means that we're going down the toilet really fast.
Okay. And now, talking about that, if America's to start going down the toilet, what does that mean for Americans in general? Go ahead.
I think it means that Americans need to understand their rights under the Bill of Rights. I think they need to understand the Constitution, because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is made for one guy. It's not made for a mob. It's made so that if the mob wants to jump off a bridge, the single guy doesn't have to. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And I don't think that people understand the constitutional republic. That means that in a democracy, it means that if 100 people vote on something, let's say that the question is, shall we jump off this bridge to our death? And 51 people say, yes, we're going to jump off this bridge to our death. That means 100 people have to jump off that bridge to their death. That's a democracy. If you have a constitutional republic, that means that if 51 people vote that they want to jump off the bridge, they can do that, but the other people do not have to do it. The 49 can say, no, I'm not doing it. Even if 99 voted, yep, we want to jump off the bridge, the one guy doesn't have to. If Americans understood their constitutional rights, they would understand that they can stand on their land, stand with the Constitution, and tell these people no trespassing on my property. They could, there's a way to be able to make sure the Constitution applies. But you know what? Unless they start understanding the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it's not going to do any good.
Is there some problem with Americans understanding the Constitution and the Bill of Rights?
Yes, well, because even my parents, okay, my parents are 82 years old, all right, and they still believe some things that should be common sense that they've made into laws, okay, to force people to do things that are common sense. You know what? There's nothing in the Constitution that says or guarantees common sense. There's nothing in the Constitution that guarantees common sense. But there is something in the Constitution that says as long as I'm not infringing on your rights, I can do whatever I want. So that means that if I'm doing something that's completely stupid in my backyard, or as long as it doesn't affect you, I can be as stupid as I want to be. It guarantees our right to be dumb. And my parents don't get that. They think things should be laws. I'm like, no. Just because one guy has a crash on a motorcycle doesn't mean that everybody else has to wear a helmet.
You know what?
Sorry, folks, I just have to interject. Doug, you go first. Then Ed, you had a question. We have Wayne Peters from What's Up Canada. He'll be joining us in about 2-3 minutes. Ed, Doug, you're first.
What I was going to say, April, is that I completely agree with you. The Bill of Rights actually isn't constitutional rights that are granted to the people. What they've done with the Bill of Rights that was inserted into the Constitution of the first 10 amendments was to make sure that the government understood that the smallest minority in the United States is the individual, and they have unalienable rights. And those unalienable rights, some of them are within the Bill of Rights, which doesn't include all unalienable rights because they don't come from government. They come from your creator, right. As Thomas Jefferson said in the Declaration of Independence, that we are given our unalienable rights from our creator. And the Bill of Rights that was put into the U.S. Constitution was there to protect the people from the overreach of government. It wasn't there to protect the government from the people. It was there to protect the people from their government. And that was the beautiful part of this. The U.S. Constitution doesn't give the government rights. As a matter of fact, the 10th Amendment of the Constitution says anything that's not within this Constitution either belongs to the states or to the people themselves. So where did they get off on creating the DEA, the FBI, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense? All of these things exceed the Constitution of the United States as to Article 10, or the 10th Amendment, I'm sorry.
Is that a question?
No. But what I'm saying, I'm just emphasizing what you're saying, and I think it's wonderful that your knowledge of the Constitution is rare for an American. I'm sorry to say that.
Well, the problem is the American people. What they do is they do advertising, okay, and marketing, and when they want to do something, they make it seem like a warm fuzzy, so that the American people go, yeah, that sounds great. And they've overworked us into a debt society so that we don't have time to actually analyze what they're saying to us. So they push the warm fuzzies without the parts that are the problems. And so the American people don't understand that when you give up your freedom, you allow tyranny to rule. Yes, some people may have bad experiences and get hurt, but that is the price of freedom. Just because you're wearing a helmet doesn't mean I have to. Now, do I think you should? Yes, but that's common sense. It shouldn't be a law.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
I didn't hear you, Kevin.
I said correct. Absolutely.
Ed,
correct.
you had a question. Is that right?
Well, no, I had a comment. I was going to try to find that guy that's running for governor, and I believe it's Utah or Wyoming. I think it's Wyoming. I don't know, Kevin, if I sent you the video about a month back, maybe.
I don't know. You have any emails I get, Ed? It's far too many. All right, everybody. We've got Wayne Peters here from What's Up Canada. He's going to join in. Wayne, long time no see. I see you and Ed are competing for best beard. Go ahead. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's kind of like a reunion of Canada's top shit talkers, and pleased to finally meet you, April.
Wayne, your volume's a little bit low.
All right, I can do something about that.
All right, fantastic. So, Wayne, just do a quick intro. Who are you? How do people find you?
whatsupcanada.org, enemy of the state #1, the worst nightmare of the commune fascist trans communism regime, at your service.
Yeah, and full disclosure, everybody, I've gone on a couple of crap disturbing missions there with Wayne. We got the cameras running and we're annoying lawyers and or government officials and so on, and we annoy them simply by asking them questions that they don't want to answer. So
one adventure I went on with you.
Yeah, it was enough, wasn't it? The other adventures were not you and I specifically holding hands.
I'm creative enough on my own to get into enough trouble. I did spend 60 days camping right underneath Trudeau's office.
And what color dress was he wearing on Wednesdays?
He pretty much traveled underground like the burrowing critter that he is the entire time that we were there.
Yeah. All right. So Wayne, being serious now, go ahead, April.
It looks like some results are coming in, so I'm going to have to scoot.
Can you come back in later on and share a bit more with us?
Yes, okay. I can. All right. Awesome. I'll be back a little bit.
Thanks. See you in a bit. That's April or June, everybody, who's right now in Midwest United States. And we'll have, I'll keep posting the actual results as we have them. And it's still 41-40 for the Dems. And I'll scroll down here for everybody to see quickly. There's your numbers there. We have a 58 to 22% lead in North Dakota, 68.7 to 27. We have 58 to 37. These are all in favor of Republicans. Arkansas, 56 to 35. I think that one's a shoo-in. Kansas, 47. It says 50.9 for the Democrats. That something's not making sense there. 66 to 30. That's a good thing. But you guys notice how the Libertarian parties, the most that they get is 2 or 3%. No one is paying attention to the alternate choices that we have. South Carolina and so on. Now, Wayne, you're in Saskatchewan. I want to get your take quickly on what people in Saskatchewan, Central Canada, have to think about the U.S. election and how informed they are. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not in Saskatchewan. I'm at an undisclosed location in Manitoba. And,
okay, well, don't say no more on that. All right, but you can be in Saskatchewan in 6 hours. So let's let's get the take on it out there. What's the general consensus out there on this election? And
I think probably Canadians are watching it more closely than most Americans. I think Canadians understand and have for a very long time that we ride the ripple effect of whatever happens down there. We are going to ride the wake of it. And Canadians are incredibly desperate and hoping for a red tidal wave.
Can I ask you, like, that's a given. We're all hoping for some conservatism to come back and for some Donald Trump to come back and so on. But what is it that people in Manitoba and or Saskatchewan are hoping for with a red victory? Go ahead.
I think they're just the same. This line that you're looking to differentiate across the American border doesn't really exist. It's only a figment. What's happening on both sides of the border is exactly the same. It originates from exactly the same place. We're all being victimized in exactly the same ways. So I don't think that we can, try and look at a difference between Americans and Canadians when it comes to the current situation. That's all based on the realities. We don't live in an avatar world. We live in a real world where it costs money to heat your home. It costs money to fill your car, and it costs money to put food on the table. And right now, people are having to decide between one or the other on all of those counts. And that's exactly the same on both sides of the border. So I think it's all just real common sense versus dystopia, and that's really what's on the ballot.
Okay, and do people in central Canada think for a second that if there is a red victory in this election, that it's actually going to do anything for them? And if so, what? Go ahead.
I think they're just like everybody else. They're hoping that with a return to a Republican mindset under what Trump showed possible, that there would be a return to common sense. The entire get woke, go broke business philosophy is proving itself to be as effective as we all knew it would be. But some people have to pay a higher price before they learn the lesson. And hopefully Americans have figured out the price that they have to pay is not worth the lesson that they're getting. So
way to word that, yeah.
So I mean, it's really what we're seeing all across the board is kind of what we're seeing all across the world. Is it's time for a reality check. The problem is, again, where it all originates from, and what they have in mind is completely, utterly dystopian and bizarre beyond comprehension for the average person. So any voice of or hope or glimmer of common sense, people are all in. And I hope that's and I was listening in before I joined in. I think April is absolutely correct in that certain points of power, they will do whatever they can to maintain that power. And I think the world is watching to see whether that's going to take place or not. Canadians are on the edge of their seat, I think, more so on this subject than probably anything else going on. And I mean, thinking about it for just a second, there is nothing that Canadians and Canadian politics do better than importing American issues.
Well, that's an absolute. Now, the American issues that we really need to concern ourselves with would be that this Democrat Party is, like April said, bent on destroying America. And if America falls, well, the Western world goes with it, because America really is the last great bastion of hope and freedom, based on the one strongest principle out there, and that is freedom of speech, protected by the Constitution. In fact, as soon as you cross the U.S. border, even if you're not a citizen, you're protected by freedom of speech there. It's incredible how much of a difference there is between our two countries. Sorry, Doug, go ahead. You got a question. Your microphone's off, pal.
Actually, no, I don't. I was just reading some election results on another screen. Sorry if I looked like I was.
Oh, it's okay. We got a finger there thinking, yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, so we do need to have America stay intact. And as April has said, there are now people that are being arrested, just like I was arrested for polling number one in the Calgary mayor race. They're being arrested for polling number one in the local Republican race, which is extremely unfortunate and the type of thing I never thought we'd ever hear of in the United States. Now, as Ed, you asked me a bit earlier, what did we know about what was going on with the voting booths in California? I'll recap what we know, and that is there's been a large amount of excrement, human feces and urine, tossed in the pathways in front of voting booths down in the San Francisco area, and we have a lot of folks, left wingers, most likely, with dogs, commanding the dogs to bark and attack. So people are just afraid to go into these voting booths. That's a problem. But we see that the numbers are still huge. Let me bring the screen back up here. The numbers are still big, and it still looks like there's enough people out there wanting to vote that we could have a red victory here. So, Doug, I want to get your take now on this wacky, out of control way that they are trying to influence the elections now. Go ahead.
I was just looking at some results in Pennsylvania, for example. This is weird. I mean, really weird. Dr. Oz, who is in Pennsylvania running against this Fetterman character.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hang on a second. Here it is. Fetterman is 59.4%. Oz is 38.1%.
It looks like there's a new number here. We've got 54.2 and 43.4.
Yeah, but how screwed up is that? Who in their right mind, unless they're dead people, voting for Fetterman or the cats and dogs?
Well,
I mean, that makes no sense.
So I'm really plugged into Pennsylvania. I do regular radio work there all the time. I'm plugged into some other networks. The creator of Wimkin's there. So I do a lot of work down there and have for a year. So I've been following this Festerman, Fetterwoman. Good evening, good night. And it's see, the problem is not, they could have put a monkey or a rock into Festerman's campaign. It's not about Fetterman. It's about who they do not want in there, because Oz will work with Mastriano as governor, and the Democrats are toast then in Pennsylvania. So they are throwing everything at the kitchen sink, and they knew they were going to have to set up the steel because it was a swing state. And because Oprah endorsed Fetterman, that's why he's going to come through at the last second for the win.
But we're seeing the same pattern here that we always see. Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and Allentown, the four biggest cities in the state, are all blue. And all the farming towns, small communities, and firework manufacturing plants, they're all red. So what is going on with the large cities in North America? We had the same garbage here in the downtown core of Calgary. They all voted for the maniac who won, and everybody on the outskirts voted for either me or one of the other parties that placed in the top 10. So what is it? Like, gentlemen, someone has to weigh in. Someone's got to explain this to me. The large cities are stupid. How?
Union seats of power. Nobody's willing to bite the hand that feeds them. The only people left employed in any of those cities work for unions.
Scary thought. Absolutely a scary thought. But I'm also thinking that for some reason, left-wingers seem to flock to the large cities. And they bring with them a strange type of liberalism that is poisonous and bad for the country. Go ahead.
People are... Everything that we've basically just discussed here since I've come on is really the smoke and mirrors of what's really going on as to who's in control and what they are doing. This is not a political race. This is a corporatocracy war, and the corporations control the politicians. They own the politicians, who then enforce the policy and then buy off the unions and all of the financial institutions every step of the way. And all of it all of it dials right straight back up the food chain to the Business Roundtable, which is the top 30 corporate board heads of state that dictate the policy that all industry will follow. And if you do not comply to what they dictate, you do not score points under the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance directives that they set the rules to. And if anybody dares to do business with anybody who doesn't comply to the ESG, you will be canceled as well. So it's the corporations through strong arming tactics of business and the complete collapse of the middle class self-employed across the Western Hemisphere. They are taking over and manipulating control. So there is no opportunity for the people that wants to get out of the syndicated political crime syndicate called the unions. There's no jobs to go to outside of that because there's no free enterprise in business because the mafia has shut them down already. So this is that swirly bowl going down the toilet of corruption, and it's all the politicians, every last one of them, right up to Biden, Sunak, Macron, every last one of them are controlled by the corporations under the World Economic Forum and their policy.
Yeah. Well, you see, and I actually tend to agree with everything you've just said, because now we're looking at Georgia, Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, and Columbus. Essentially the 4 biggest business hubs in the state. And they're all blue. And all the surrounding towns around them are all red. So is it that stupid people live in just the cities and not on the outskirts? I'm floored. But yeah, Wayne, I do agree with what you just said. What I'm going to do here, folks, is keep going through all the states that are on the eastern seaboard here. Hawaii and Alaska, they're the last ones to cast. 1 a.m. is when they're 1 a.m. our time, mountain time, is when they will end. Idaho is not in there. Illinois has got some votes, but they'll close a bit later on. Once again, Rockford, Chicago, Aurora, and Springfield. All blue. All blue. Insane. And that's just the cities. All of the outlying regions will probably be red. All right, what do we got there? Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis. Thank God there are not that many major centers in that state. So we'll get a lot of farmers there that'll vote the right way. Moving our way down to Kentucky. There you go. See the theory. Frankfurt, Lexington, Louisville. Blue. It's unbelievable. And it's the same thing in Canada, everybody, that Toronto is liberal or NDP. They're always, whatever's crazy, all of Toronto votes for it. But the difference between our two countries is that whoever wins Toronto essentially wins the country. It's lunacy. That's just how many people that there are in that area. All right, we'll keep going down the road here, and anybody can chime in any time if they have a different point of view.
Why are we still calling liberals when in actuality they're like corporatists or communists?
Because it's an easy term for everybody to understand, and because to be a liberal, it's now a derogatory term. So we don't say the F word on this show. We'll just say liberal. It's worse.
There's a new addition to the vernacular that we really need to embrace. I feel this was something coined by a Dutch professor and documentarian filmmaker, trans communism. Because and let me explain this for a second. Under the 3 parameters of good social scoring, which the social credit system is the pauper, peon, useless eater version. That's the social credit system. The ESG is the social credit system for the corporate world. And under the social governance, the gender equity program, trans rights are going to be the measuring stick. And under the trans communism that they're implementing, this is what is going to determine whether we are going to be socially acceptable or not. So this is how they're going to envelop the environmental deniers and everybody else. We can be climate deniers and we can be science deniers, but we go straight to jail if we're a trans denier.
Isn't that bizarre and sick? And there's a lot more that we could say on that, but we're not going to make this a trans show. But we are certainly going to talk
I
about
just
the
got
fact.
you canceled from everywhere, Kevin. Sorry, you can thank me tomorrow.
So Kevin, instead
Yes.
of calling them liberals, call them libtards.
Well, I like
That's an easy one. Libtards.
Well, okay, we have a lot of libtards in America. I mean, I'm going to keep going through the states here, and you'll pay attention to the fact that the cities are the problem. The major centers are the problem. They really, really are. New Jersey. Let's have a look at this one. All right, Patterson, Newark, and Trenton. I lived in Trenton for a little while. I can tell you that even in the 90s, it was a libtard state, and you can see where this is probably going to end up being a Democratic state. Work our way down. What do we got there? Wyoming won't be in yet. West Virginia is in the East Coast there. Thank God. Oh, it's all red, everybody. Thank God. 63 to 36. I think we can call that one. But they're still saying projected winner. And they're saying only 66% of the estimated vote is in. Isn't that weird? And the polls have been closed there for an hour and 49 minutes.
Yeah, they got to wait till after midnight to count those mail-in ballots from all the graveyards.
Yeah, no, you're right on that one.
Hey, did anyone notice at the last mayor election here in Ontario that 3/4 of the votes were mail-in ballots, or no, computer ballots for the mayoral races?
Yeah, there's no point even talking about municipal politics in Canada anymore. They are completely and totally rigged. We know that for a fact. We know that whatever libtard, the libtard government of Canada wants in place, they'll just be placed there now. They're not even hiding the fact that they're rigging the elections. They're just doing it. And the average Canadian is still more concerned about hockey night in Canada, lining up at Tim Hortons for a cup of coffee, and Kim Kardashian's ass. And that's really about where it ends.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing, Kevin, is that when you go to mark your ballots in Canada, you mark them in pencil. So they don't need to have computers that can rig the election. All they need is an eraser here in Canada.
That's why I always bring a magic marker and a pen when I go to vote.
Yeah, but I went into one of those voting stations. I said, "What happens if we mark it in pen?" She says that disqualifies the ballot. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So we don't have to need voter fraud with Dominion voting machines. All they need is an eraser. Like Stalin said many years ago, it's not those that vote that count; it's those that count the vote that count.
Yeah. Okay. So at this particular point, everybody, I know that we're not going to have all the results in by the end of this show, but at least we can start to show you what it is that we, as journalists, good journalists, what we're paying attention to. And we are paying attention to nuances of voting, such as the major cities are always going to vote libtard or Democrat, and the country areas, rural areas, and small towns won't, for the reasons that Wayne has very clearly illustrated. I disagreed with none of what he had said. I'll just add to it in that there seems to be this major party component. There's a lot of folks that move into the big city specifically and only because they want adventure. And the people that think that way are libtards. I am the first one to admit it, because I can tell you, I've lived downtown Toronto, downtown Montreal, downtown Ottawa, downtown New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Denver, Tampa, Biloxi, Kansas City, and a few others. Libtards are everywhere. This need for adventure and need for people to be around them signify a very specific type of brain, a very specific type of thought process. You know, people who are insecure and dumb tend to have a lot more friends, only because they feel better about having more friends paying attention to them. Whereas intelligent people have fewer friends and go to fewer crowded events and tend to not live in the cities. So that is something else that I could observe about major cities, especially New York. I lived in Harlem for 6 months in 1996. It was a terrifying experience.
You know, everything that we're experiencing here when it comes to all of that is literally the difference between what took down Rome and Russia, but they pulled the plug on it and stopped it there before it was too late. But they've unleashed it on our society and done nothing but throw gas on it. And it's a culture engineering program gone horribly wrong.
So now what?
Now comes what most people are going to think of as Armageddon. How bad it's going to get, that depends entirely on the people of the world. But there are some very dark agendas at play, and I'm hoping that we're not going to see a return to common sense. It's not magic. It's not going to happen like that. But maybe we can get some interventions and some points that might save humanity and might give us an opportunity to breathe a little bit as we fight. That's the best that we can hope for right now, because as we gather our breath, there's a whole other, succession of crazy that they got planned for us.
Oh, there's more crazy coming. They haven't broken everybody yet. And we did mention this earlier in the year, that this year coming up, 2023, is going to be the year of the protest again. We're seeing it in Brazil right now. They had their elections stolen and they're fuming. And they have filled the streets to the tune of 2 to 3 million people in each city protesting and blocking roads and so on. They actually want the previous guy who just got ousted to come back in as a dictator. That's how much they loved him and how much they hate this new guy. So think about that. Now, but where is that going to lead? And the only thing that it can is, if people want to get these things back, revolutions are going to have to come up. But I think what's happened here is there's enough distraction in the world that revolutions are not going to start. Everybody out there has, one of these, or maybe 2 of these, and a laptop and a TV and a gaming computer, and the list goes on. And you can sit there and watch stupid crap on TikTok all day long and accomplish nothing. And, they used to say this about Nintendo, that Nintendo would keep one busy for 12 hours and have them accomplish nothing. But at least 20, 30 years ago, people were still interacting with each other. They've stopped. And this fake pandemic thing is what closed off the rest of anybody else who had social anxieties. Now everyone's got it. So nobody's out there talking to each other. So I will say that there's a little bit of hope here, but not a whole lot.
Actually, there's a lot of hope, Kevin. Sorry to interrupt. There's a lot of hope. Problem is, it's about 3-4 years down the road. Consider how many people are on their 4th or 5th experimental injection. These people will no longer be with us in the next 3 to 7 years. So who's the people that didn't take these experimental injections? They're mostly right-leaning. By today's proper verbiage, I'd say racist, extremist, right-wing extremist,
Islamophobic, blah 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 blah.
Like everything that's good and normal, and what used to be good and normal. So demographics is destiny. So once these people are no longer around, as long as we can stop the dead from voting, I think we're going to have a good future. We just got to wait a while.
I hear you on that.
Wayne?
I have some hypothetical disagreements based on things that are happening outside of our periphery. And there was a reason why they didn't allow us to watch what happened in Venezuela. There's a reason they're not letting us see what's happening in the Ukraine. And, well, nobody's seeing what's happening in the Ukraine because it's gone back to the Stone Age and it's not coming back. And all their video games and their PlayStations are not going to work for them in that region of the world for a long time. And that situation over there has now means that Germany has opted to wear the bullseye on their back and be the HQ for NATO's operations in Ukraine, of which it seems that our Miss Chrystia Freeland might be on deck for being the commander-in-chief of the United Nations, who very desperately wants to instigate a nuclear war with Russia, and Russia's just not playing any reindeer games, but these guys want it very desperately. So until we get a major intervention on the lunatics plans, anything is still on the table, because if that starts to happen, the whole world is going to be eating their zoo animals in a week. And that's not very optimistic. So there's a lot of ripples and waves that are dependent on what's happening right now.
And for those who may not know, Wayne, what you're talking about, I'll just recap it very quickly. I got in trouble in this one, actually. Some of the police, when they incarcerated me for speaking the truth, explained to me that I should not be talking about things like Venezuela. This was told to me in prison. Do not talk about Venezuela. In Venezuela, they put all their money and all their futures plans into oil, and they were subsidizing people's food to the tune of almost 100% in some cases, depending on the town that you were in. So when oil tanked, all of a sudden, they lost about 80% of their subsidies on food. And as you said, they were eating farm animals, followed by zoo animals. But they started with their own pets first. And then eventually there was cannibalism in that country. And when I brought these things up, I was told by a large number of left-wing libtards, as Doug calls them, correctly so, that I didn't know what I was talking about. I was greatly ill-informed, and I need to be taken off the air. And I've also had some people tell me that, oh, I clapped and I cheered when you got arrested, because you just can't accuse people in South America of cannibalism. I said, well, it's one country. I wasn't accusing all South Americans of it, and it wasn't even an accusation. It was just me repeating what I knew to be true.
It was human nature. That's what displayed itself. And that's what they don't want people to realize, is what's the potential of human nature actually is. And I don't think it's actually coincidence that they just put a 10-foot wall around the Fed in the U.S. On Sunday. The currency, the financial collapse, as predicted, is no longer coming. It's here. It's here. And what does the world look like when everybody goes Venezuela? And this is not something that boils down to as simple as who's printing more money creates the highest rate of fastest inflation. That's not it. We're squabbling amongst ourselves. Meanwhile, the other side of the planet is... did I get kicked out?
No, you're still here, buddy. Share.
Meanwhile, the other side of the planet is reconstructing a financial system outside of American bullying, and Putin pretty much has the Eastern and Central world by the short hairs, and the United Nations is, the cracks are coming apart, and the financial system is going to change, and nations are not willing to see themselves go into the dark night of history because they followed somebody that, like Biden, down the rocket sled on rails. So that's just, they're just not willing to do that, to sacrifice themselves for the American leadership, as they have in generations past. So with the weak leadership of that, it's created a domino effect, and that is unstoppable. And I mean, Biden is using the American national oil reserves to pay his bills in China, right? So, I mean, that tells you how much power the American politician dynasty has left in the world anymore. And all of the other nations that are power blocks are moving to working with China and Russia because they like heat, they like to eat, and they like their video games and gadgets. And they're not going to have any of that following the Western doctrine of the World Economic Forum into oblivion. Why are they taking us into oblivion? Because they know that's going to be the only way to force us to accept this business transaction of us surrendering all of our debt and freedoms and everything else for their digital currency and their entrance, acceptance back into society so we can survive. That's what it's going to come down to. They're crushing us so that they think that we're going to accept their choice when it comes time to rebuild society. This is social engineering, terraforma, whatever you want to call it. That's why they're taking us to the brink. Putin just said a long time ago he wasn't going to play these reindeer games, and he's the only adult in the room. I'm not endorsing Putin by any stretch of the imagination, but he's, like I said, the only adult in the room. Russia does not have a first strike nuclear policy. America does. America wants this really badly, and the WEF is running out of willing puppets, and Chrystia Freeland so far is unwounded in this battle. She sits as Schwab's right hand as a director on the World Economic Forum board of directors, and now she'll take over NATO, and she'll be happy to push the big red button.
So, Wayne, what you just described, a lot of what you're talking about is Haiti today.
Correct.
Been covering any of that?
I haven't been covering it, but it's the same model that they're using in the Middle East. They've been stealing oil at gunpoint to operate their systems. Everything is going into this giant vortex of the Ukraine. When Putin stated that he was going in to denazify the Ukraine, the world laughed at him, the media mocked him, and the reality of it is it's been documented in our own mainstream media news coverage that Canadian government has been over there funding and training the Azov battalion for at least 5 years on the record, looking forward to developing future relations. So we've got Nazis in control of Canada that are now taking control of NATO, which is basically directing the war in the Ukraine and putting their head office in Germany. Tell me we haven't got the WEF Fourth Reich is what this is, who is controlling all of this, and the fallout of this is our economic suicide at this end of the planet.
Yes, I concur, because you know that I went to Myanmar and Thailand back in 2018, and I can tell you that the United Nations is highly unpopular, first off, but it was common knowledge that there were outside forces funding the United Nations, who in turn were funding radical Islamic groups to start slaughtering en masse so they could have a big shift in the control of land. Now we're seeing the same thing out here with control of resources and control of money, especially now that we have a couple of countries, Canada and the United States, that are most likely going to force us into a digital token that expires. So
Kevin, I got to get going here. So thank you very much for having me here tonight. You guys take care, have fun, and let's hope it is a big red wave.
We certainly hope so. We'll keep watching for the next 50 minutes. Thanks for being here, Doug. Doug Force, everybody. That's Doug Force. The Myth is Canada. He's got a book out that helps you with your allodial title, how you can make sure that your property stays in your hands and not the government's hands. So, Wayne, let's talk a bit more about Pennsylvania. You said you've been down there a number of times. You deal with people there. What's the American attitude towards the Democrat Party? Go ahead.
Well, I haven't actually been there, but I do a lot of work with people from there, and it's like here. the majority are conservative, but the corruption is long entrenched in Pennsylvania, and they have not been able to get it out yet. Now now they've got a real contender in Doug Mastriano, and there's a lot of hope. And these places where there were strong contenders is where the Democratic Party, the funding has dumped the most resources into it. I'm not an Oz fan, but he was placed there because he was a moderate. They knew they were going to need a bridge candidate, and he should have been on merit enough, able to beat, Mr. Festerneck. But again, it's bizarre how much money they're dumping into it. And now he's become the victim candidate. He's so brave for surviving his stroke, and the seats of power in Pennsylvania support him because, again, unions, and the unions follow the ESG agenda. They're good social credit earners, and they say that criminals shouldn't be in jail. It's inhumane. So he's very popular amongst the ruling elite that are quite happy to still live in their ivory towers while they watch Rome burning around them in the cities. But outside of the cities, it is very different.
Yeah, we're having a quick look here. It seems that Dr. Oz is catching up a little bit. He was at 33, I believe, earlier in the day. Now it's 46%, and estimated vote-in's 45%. So that's an interesting race.
It's also CNN.
I know. I hate CNN, but they actually have the best maps this year. You believe it or not, their maps are better than Fox's maps. So there we go. Now, for anybody that did want to send us mail, we have moved. We have a new address. That's it there. P.O. Box 85253. And that's RPO Alberta Park. That's, of course, Calgary. Tango 2 Alpha 7 Romeo 7. Please follow me on Truth Social. It's a great platform. It's very stable. I joined up there just a few days ago, and I'm actually loving it. Yes, I'm on TikTok, user ID KevinJJohnston. I'm on Getter, another Twitter alternative, KevinJ. I'm on Parler at KevinJJohnston, and I'm back on Twitter at RealKJJ300. And after Elon Musk took it over, I'm having a blast. I think I'm at 1,800 tweets, most of which attack celebrities, and it's just parfait.
It took me 3 days to get put under review the first time on Truth. I'm still under review on Truth Social, and I've been permanently removed from Twitter.
That's the myth is that Wayne Peters got on a Truth Social and got kicked off in a week. What did you say?
there was a post, one of the news organizations had posted it about CNBC removing their official report on Paul Pelosi's encounter with the police at the door when he was rescued from his assailant. And I responded just simply with a statement. I said, why? Did they hear about the allegations that he wasn't hit with a hammer, he was hit with a dildo?
That's all it was?
That's it.
Wow. Well, we're going to have to talk to Mr. Donald Trump about that, my friend.
Well, yeah, I'm actually more ticked at Twitter myself because they won't give me my account back still. Got another response from them again today, again saying no, they do not like my stance on maps, and I won't back down on that. So that apparently is still not acceptable. And I mean, I'm a journalist. I use grown-up words. I didn't call for any damages to anybody. If anything, I'm trying to prevent damages from people, because at some point, some daddy's going to have enough with all of this, and some little soy drinking, man bun wearing 14 pierced facial recognizing purple-haired 14 pronoun type individuals is going to get wrecked.
I just want to say thank you to Elizabeth for following me on Truth Social. Come on, folks, get over there to Truth Social, because Twitter will be cool, but not for very much longer. It's not going to stay cool forever. Follow me on Trump's platform because, hey, why not? I'm going to be a little bit more prone to putting things up on Truth Social than I will anywhere else, because I can actually upload high definition 10-minute videos there. So it will be a backup video website for me too.
So right, I'm going to give you a golden nugget here right now. In all seriousness, Facebook is, as we know it, is going to be gone. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's for some people, yes, but there's a lot of people that are going to be absolutely lost, looking for the people that they used to be in touch with. And Mark has lost $600 billion in the last couple of months. His stocks have hit the bottom of the tank. He's going to be laying off something like 87,000 employees, and he doesn't have $1 left to put in all of this. So he is not going to be able to keep the lights on at Facebook. Never mind anything else. So this is going to disappear. Here's the gold nugget. You might like Truth. Truth is interesting. It's fun. It's entertaining. But if you want a real platform, you go to Wimkin. WIMKIN. Never mind 10 minutes of streaming. You can stream all day there. It's got all of the bells and whistles of Facebook and Twitter and a bunch of TikTok deals. And here's the thing. This guy is one of us.
Wow.
And he's accessible. And he is real. And he is not for sale. And he has fought 5, I think, Supreme Court battles against the Supreme Court in the U.S. to keep speech alive. He has been just trashed and taken to court by by Apple, by Google, by all of these guys over his, allowing his apps on their stores, distribution, And it's the only place that truly is not censored. As I've exposed, it took me 3 days to get censored on Truth for a pretty benign statement. So yeah, get familiar with Wimkin, because they will be the last platform standing. That's why I say invest your time and reconnecting on Wimkin, because they're going to be the last one standing.
Interesting. Very interesting. There's been a lot that have come. Some have gone. If you guys remember, we used to have oneway.com, and we actually had the creator of that social media platform on the show. And he was, of course, absolutely dead set against everything that we're dead set against, and more so because he was a pretty hardcore Christian. Nonetheless, that one did unfortunately disappear, which is too bad. There's been many. I think vid.me was a really good one that we were utilizing there for a while. It disappeared pretty fast. So, I agree with you. And all of you need to find alternate sources now. That's also why I believe we are on 28 social media platforms now, because in some way you'll be able to reach us should things hit the fan, as they say. Ed, are you back?
What will Bill C-11 do to us? There's the question.
Well, explain Bill C-11 quickly. Go ahead.
I don't know, Wayne, you probably know more about it than I do, but basically they're going to be licensing content producers. CRTC will be controlling who gets to speak or not. And it's going to be, let's just say the communists will be proud of Bill C-11.
We doing this right here, right now, would fall under CRTC regulation, and we would be governed by Trudeau's rules accordingly. That's why I've been working my butt off building shit outside of North America that they can't touch.
Death to Stalin.
All right.
No, I'm not building my stuff in Russia.
it might be the safest place going, unfortunately.
No, see, I've learned something through this censorship journey. And all of the bad guys, all of the usual suspects, where do they host all of their stuff? Everything.
America.
No, they do not. They host it all in Switzerland, because the internet laws in Switzerland are the same as the banking laws in Switzerland. If you're not breaking the law in Switzerland, they will tell the alphabet agencies to go pound sand whenever they come for your junk.
Really?
Well, it's the way that it should be. And I actually did have a conversation today with a developer. He's from Toronto. He went to one of the major universities in New York, and then he decided to go to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, they will also not honor anything to do with the Can Spam Act. So you could actually head down there and write programs to scrape 1 billion email accounts and then send 1 billion emails a week. And the Costa Rican government, well, they're too busy making sure that they have roads that aren't falling down in mudslides. They don't care about what former Canadians and Americans are doing in their country in reference to email campaigns. So regrettably, the way I see it is the only true freedoms that there will be in the future is to be in second and third world countries. I illustrated that point just like it's a stupid example, but the simple example is when you guys saw the videos of me 4 years ago surfing on top of a taxi cab in Myanmar. The driver, he spoke through a translator and told me, like, I don't care if silly white boy does that, but if silly white boy falls down, I'm not taking him to hospital. Right. So like the onus was on me. That was completely my right to be there. And of course, my right to die if I fell down. And that we don't have that type of freedom of choice anymore in this country, period.
And so this was exactly why, when seeing this coming, why I built my stuff in a place where they can't just go and take it away from me like they did before. They took my sites once before and wiped them clean. Now they can't do that. With C11, they're still going to be able to say, no, I can't stream in Canada. But what they can't do is stop anybody that has a VPN from accessing where I'm building a complete channel in Switzerland that everybody can go to and find whoever it is that they follow, right? So they're not going to be able to stop me from broadcasting. They're only going to be able to stop me from broadcasting to Canada. I can still reach the States.
But, and here's the big but, China heavily censors their internet traffic, right? Correct? And didn't Russia shut off the internet coming into Russia for a while? 2 years ago. They shut off the outside world for a while.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I was talking to April quickly there. Go ahead.
China Russia, did, yeah, not Russia.
No, Russia did shut down the outside world for a couple of weeks. This is going back about 2 years ago.
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, and again, I'm not ever endorsing Putin. He's still a communist. He's still a Russian. But I've been following the man for a long, long time, and he doesn't see things like a lot of the rest of the world does. He is a purist per se. He sees he's a nostalgic guy, and he's also a lawyer. And if a person wants to backtrack the legalities of this, Putin is the only one that is actually following the letter of the law and policies and agreements that were negotiated over the time, the last 50 years. He's the only one that's actually following the law. So he's doing things very differently. And yes, they are for the benefit of Russia, but it's more so. So here's the biggest difference in a nutshell. Typically, through our entire lives, we've been used to hearing "death to America," "death to America." Every one of America's enemies, that was the battle cry. Death to the corporate America. Death to America. That's not the battle cry right now. Over there, It's death to the Satan worshipers and the pedophiles. That's what the Russian propaganda is speaking to. They are not demonizing the American population. They have separated and separated the ruling elite from the general population, and they're not hating on Americans, but they're absolutely willing to go to the ends of time, the ends of their religion and faith against the pedophiles and the demon worshippers. Very different.
So, yeah, see, it's a different way of looking at things. But you know what I noticed about the convoy, Freedom 2022? You had people that could barely speak French trying to talk to the French people, and vice versa. There was no divide.
No.
Zero. And
You know,
they've been taught that English Canada is against French Canada. No, they're just like us, and that proved it. And everybody was giving each other high fives and helping each other. There was none of this. Oh, if you're French, well, hang on, I'll get you translated if your English is lousy. And people worked together. It was amazing.
And see, that's
look,
the thing.
guys, sorry, guys, to cut you off there, but I used to take my family on the to Quebec City every year when they were kids. So that was like the family vacation for 5 years straight. And never in Quebec City, the capital, did we have any resistance of any kind. Like Montreal, I think 2 people got upset that I didn't speak French. 2 people. That was it. That's very, very select. So don't believe the hype, everybody. New Yorkers don't hate Californians. Californians don't hate Texans. I mean, we poke jokes at each other, but now that I live in Calgary, I'm not going to sit there and tell you I hate Torontonians. I despise Ontario's governmental structure and its judicial system. I hate it, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you that you should be blown into the sun because you're in Toronto. That's just not how the average person thinks. Wayne, you talked earlier about the fact the average person wants to eat. They want warm blankets. They want heat on in the winter, a little bit of AC in the summer. They certainly wouldn't mind one night out a month to go to the bar. I get that. That's what we're all after. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the cabal that runs America has determined that they must have regime change in Russia. And it boils down to one sentence that Russia formally stated as to why now the UN puppets that control America and NATO determined that they must have regime change. Zelensky will sacrifice the last Ukrainian for this regime change in Russia because Russia formally stated they would only ever recognize 2 genders. That's it.
No way.
That's what the war is based on.
Okay, that's what it's based on. But what is it really based on? Russia arrested some of the Rothschild banking cartel and kicked out their banksters. You never hear about that, do you?
There's that this battle plan was written up in 1991 by George W. Bush. I just wrote a 4,000-page article and published it a couple of days ago on this, man. I'm shitting you not. This plan against Russia was written out in 1991.
Wow. And I'm sure Russia knows about it, so they know.
100%. 100%.
Now, what does that have to do with flying Doritos, though?
With what?
Flying Doritos. The triangular-shaped drones.
Oh, you mean aliens?
No. There's flying drones, and they're shaped like Doritos, triangular-shaped drones. They'll come in and drop 1 munition locally, like at a low altitude.
Iran is supplying the bulk of the drones to Russia right now, using American chips. Manufactured in Taiwan. And when China takes over Taiwan, you won't even be able to get a washing machine over here or a microwave because there won't be a chip for it. And so now Iran is quite happily created an entire new industry, and they're opening up 2 oil fields and 7 gas fields over there in a partnership with Russia. So the oil basin of central, the Eurasian center is now, solidified, and you've got the Balkan states, the Serbia, Croatia, Kazakhstan. They're all giving the Americans the middle finger, and so there's this whole split is well, yeah, they do need the Russia to split the world in half, so the World Economic Forum can do what they want to do in this side of the world and create this homogenous dystopia, Orwellian, new world order. It's and here's the thing: Putin is a gangster. He is a KGB guy. He is crafty. Do you think he's going to leave technology on the table and not take advantage of it to maintain being the communist dictator of a country? Of course he's going to adopt digital currency and digital ID. But the difference is he's not going to exterminate 2/3 of the population that he has to make that happen.
All right, guys, just on a quick note here, our dear friend April of June, she's celebrating, like there's a big party going on right now just in the Kansas City, Missouri area. She is right now sitting with 14,077 votes as a Republican, and Charlie Franklin, the Democrat, is at 14,784. So she's about 600 votes behind this guy. And here it is. See there. Can we see it? Not quite. There we go. There we go. Now you can see it.
Hang on. I'm going to full screen you. Leave it up for a second. April of June is for her vote. Well, let's hope she gets it in.
Yeah, that's what I hope as well. I mean, that is certainly something that we'd love to see happen. So that's why I've been chatting with April here, folks. Just getting.
I didn't know she was running.
Yeah, she contacted me to find out some of what I had done, both right and wrong, in the campaigns that I ran. And the one thing that her and I could both agree upon is that it's going to be a whole lot easier for her to do anything in the United States because Americans actually do care about their local politics. They do care about their country, whereas Canadians have not for quite some time. Yeah. Ed, you were with me on the last campaign in Mississauga, 2018, and I think you saw the same thing that I did, and that was a sheer lack of interest in municipal politics. Like the best crowd that we got for a debate was what, 30 people? Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. That's right. University of Toronto. Bonnie Crombie did not want to debate me, so she sets a debate up against an 83-year-old man and a 20-year-old girl, and has me disinvited. But I decided to just give speeches in the hallway. She had 30 people in an auditorium that seats 500 people, and I had over 150 people in the hallway listening to me. So, but why was it only 150? It should have been thousands. There should have been lineups. I should have had to say, forget Bonnie Crombie. Let's go outside in the parking lot and we'll talk there. But 150 is ridiculous. And in 2014, when I ran for mayor, I debated Bonnie Crombie in front of the biggest crowd that we could get in the mayor debates. And that was 200 people at a retirement home. People just don't care in Canada.
Well, people don't understand that it makes a difference. Local politics actually makes a difference.
Local politics is everything.
It's the only way we stop what's coming.
Well, for anybody who's in Mississauga, who might be a detractor of mine watching now, hey, you could have had me in office. And when they brought shutdowns and lockdowns in, I was going to say no and have the city running smooth. But you decide to vote for a member of a terrorist group. Literally, Bonnie Crombie is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood They have been designated a terrorist organization by more than 40 countries worldwide, and that is who you elected. You booed me when I was on stage, and you elected her. Well, good for you. Your city is toast. My hometown, I don't even designate that my hometown anymore. It's cooked. It's not coming back. Your property values next year are going to sink, and that's because you don't pay attention to anything except what CBC tells you to say. CBC told you to boo me and give me the finger, so you did. Good for you. Look how happy I am. Look how miserable you are. That's all there is.
So long as we keep paying taxes, those people will get subsidized to keep their homes.
Oh, yeah, Derek found some of the video footage there. There you go. Oh, yeah, keep this in mind also, Mississauggans and Torontonians and so on. Yeah, when the interest rates go to 7% in this country, and they will, you're going to lose your homes. And when you do, I'll be talking to Wayne and Ed and a few others, and we're going to go and buy your homes that the banks are probably going to own, not you.
Well, BlackRock's going to own them all.
Yeah, either way, we'll figure that out. So you got to be careful who you pay attention to. And if you're going to go to CBC and CNN and the BBC and CTV and Toronto Star for advice on anything, it's always going to be wrong, and the loser will be you. They win because you're buying their products. The loser will be you.
Kevin, can you bring up Ammon Bundy? He's running in Idaho.
Let's have a quick look here.
See if any of those results have come on. This guy ran. I love this. His commercials were freaking awesome. I don't know if you've seen them, any of them.
All right. We don't have votes in yet.
Nothing at all yet, eh?
No, nothing yet for Idaho. But remember, they're in the same time zone as me. That's 2 hours back. So they'll probably have a flood of information coming in about an hour.
So I'm watching Politico's where they're got the real time for the Senate and the House, and it's kind of interesting to see how that's going. The Senate is actually a little closer than I thought it would be. It's close, but they might be able to squeak it out. So they're going to steal just enough. It's continuing one seat ahead for the Dems on the Senate, but the House is a complete wipeout. It's red.
No, let me bring that up. I'm going to bring that up right now because I have Politico up and running right now too. So
what is the House responsible for? Us Canadians that don't know about American.
Oh, I gave the whole speech at the beginning of the show. Let me get the Politico thing up and I'll do a quick recap for you. All right. That's all we'll do. Just a quick recap. All right. Senate.
We're not supposed to know and understand all of these things, Ed. Don't you know? We're just free range humans living on a tax farm.
There we go. There's Politico. So as you said, yeah, the Dems are ahead by one. They've been ahead by one pretty much since the show started.
Yeah.
But if we scroll down here, it looks like we, the good guys, have the House. So 98-55. There we go. So far. I mean, they might still steal this. Like literally steal it. Not steal it vote-wise, just rob it. All right. But here, I've got a whole bunch of information here. 3 branches of government in the United States: legislative, executive, and judicial. Legislative is comprised of the United States Congress and the House of Representatives. So the Congress is made up by 2 different houses. The House of Representatives, where we got here, Congress is responsible for representing constituents, working together to write laws, overseeing lesser government agencies, passing bills. There are 435 elected officials in the House, and there are 100 in the Senate. The Senate has 2 representatives per state, whereas the House of Representatives is based on population. There's more to it. I'm not going to get into it. If anybody wants to see the entire thing, just watch the show when we stick it up on BitChute.com/KevinJJohnston. It'll be on Rumble for you, Odyssey, Facebook, KevinJJohnston.ca. It's going to be everywhere. You can see the 15-minute breakdown of what everything is in U.S. politics. But trust me when I say this, we want the House for the Republicans and we want the Senate for the Republicans because the House are the ones that can impeach Joe Biden. Impeach does not mean he's kicked out. It just means a proceeding has been started. And the Senate would be the ones that run the trial. So if the Republicans run both the Senate and the House, oh, Joe Biden's here. If they, if they run both, then they can definitely impeach Biden and Kamala Harris and get those two traitors out of office.
They need to win the Senate so that they can stop all of Biden's bills dead in their tracks, and the House to impeach him and get him out.
Yeah, but also the Senate so that they can, the House will impeach, the Senate will run the trial and boot him. And there'd be no reason for the Republicans to not boot him if they win both. I mean, Dinesh D'Souza is certainly one of my favorite American public speakers.
He's in jail again.
Is he really?
They rounded up the whole production team yesterday and arrested them all from 2000 Mules.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh,
wow.
Way. For what? What are they arrested for?
To make sure that he didn't get too much recorded for today from today. I don't know. I didn't dig into it, but yeah, they picked up the whole team.
That is incredible.
All right, guys, I'm going to step off the show if you don't mind. Be looking forward to what are we doing next Tuesday?
Don't know yet, but we've had a lot of phone calls from a lot of interesting people. The Americans are well aware of who we are. People are happy that we're back on the air somewhat. So we'll make a big announcement on social media. And everybody, if you want to know what we're up to, you can hit me on Truth Social. Follow me there. You can hit me on TikTok, Getter, Parler. I'm back on Twitter. You can always go to my website, KevinJJohnston.ca. There's all kinds of ways to find out what I'm up to. You don't have to count on just one specific social media platform to do so. So, Edward, I don't know, but we're certainly going to, whatever it is, it'll be informative as always. And then maybe you'll shave between now and then because Wayne's got the better beard.
Not till after Christmas. I need that part-time job.
I have no idea what job you're referring to, so I'm just going to say thanks for being here.
He's going to play, mall Santa.
Well, you wouldn't be too bad at that. Unfortunately, you lost too much weight, so we're going to have to stuff you up with pillows.
Yeah. Okay, guys. See you next week.
Good night, Ed. Thanks for being here. All right, everyone. That's Ed Janicek. We're always happy to have him here. And no, Gord's saying good night, and a whole bunch of people here are saying good night. Thanks, Dolores, for the compliments. We certainly do appreciate that. So from what we can tell here, the results are not going to be in tonight. But we wanted you to get an idea of how important the U.S. elections are. That's why we had the special 3-hour show today. Our good friend April Lejeune, who was on the show, as it stands right now, is 600 votes behind the Democratic guy running in the Kansas City, Missouri area. Yes, Kansas City, the real one, is in Missouri, not Kansas. And there's Derek. Yeah.
Yeah, she's within range of a recount now. If it keeps going and looks like it's been trending in her favor as it carries on through the count. So wish her luck.
Well, I certainly do wish her luck. She's a very hardworking gal, and I've been proud to know her now for almost 5 years. The first time I interviewed her was 2017 with Pastor Mike Phillip from Americanuck Radio in Edmonton. So we always had a blast, always had a good time chatting with her. She says she's going to try to come back in, but I think the party that she's at right now is pretty big. It's bigger than the one we're having here in our studio.
Well, I'm a little bit of some time ahead of you guys over there, being as far east as I am. So I don't know if I'm going to. I don't know how long you're going or how long I'm going to be hanging out with you here.
Well, we're going to cut off in 15 minutes here because we typically end the show at 11 p.m. Toronto time. But for anyone who's got questions, by all means, throw them in the chat room now. Alaska and Hawaii will not be closing their polls until 1 a.m. tonight. We've also got the entire Western Coast is still voting, and they're not reporting very well. Wayne, I'll repeat to everybody who came in late here. There have been people being arrested. Republicans have been arrested today countrywide for filming. All they're doing is filming the voting booths to make sure that no theft is taking place. And because the Democrats still run the government, they have been having people arrested countrywide. So it's not just Canada now, where guys like me who run for office, who are devilishly good looking, get thrown in jail for 7-8 weeks at a time. It's happening in the USA as well. In Mesa, they had power failures today, and people were told to go home because the machines would not be on today. And don't do that. Don't leave. Stay and vote. In California, there's been copious amounts of human fecal matter thrown in front of voting booths today. That's been filmed. That's been reported on widely today. It's disgusting, but that's what the Democrats are doing to keep people away from the voting booths. And there have been dog attacks. Antifa's been out with dogs.
They had to get creative after they kicked Zuckerberg out of the proceedings, right?
And the very fact that Elon Musk took over Twitter and then fired 3,500 communist left-wing lunatics, it's very, very good for everything. He came out and said a Republican victory is absolutely necessary. And it is. We do need to have Republicans back in office, and we absolutely have to have Donald Trump back in office in the next election. Look, what was amazing is that there was a lawyer in a court case that I was in last year that was crying to the courts, crying to the judge that I once made a comment on my show that please, Donald Trump, come to Canada and remove this government by force. Yeah. And he's saying, why would Mr. Johnston be calling on a foreign government to come here and ask them to remove our government? Because, well, he's a libtard. Because lawyers in Ontario are all libtards. Most of them are extremely left. And they don't argue anything on the merits of law anymore. It's all character assassination. It's actually very strange to see a lawyer 10 years older than me cry about things I've said on a show a year ago. It's pathetic. But that is what's going on here, is everything has become character assassination. Canada, United States, wide. It's all
digital justice. These people, entire space, their entire net worth, their social value, their value to the world and humanity is all wrapped up in their digital space. And I think that insanity is unsustainable. I think Elon Musk's $8 blue check is going to let him buy Facebook in about 3 months for about 10 cents on the dollar. And Elon Musk will own all of the social media platforms in the world. And he'll have enough data inputs to finish his AI programming.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that he does program an AI, although he warns us about AI all the time. Thanks, thanks, Derek, for that. Absolutely. So, at any rate, folks, if you had questions, like I said, toss them in the room because we're down to our last 10 minutes here. The results are going to be in for some states tonight. You can see that the results are coming in, but they are nowhere near being done. And yes, Daniel, we are aware of the fact that Trump is going to announce either later this week or next week that he's going to run again. We know that. He's a shameless self-promoter, and that's why I love the guy.
He was on Newsmax this evening telling them that he would officially announce on Tuesday.
Well, that is fantastic. So that'll be 7 days from today. We're going to have the Trumpster coming back in some fashion, and that would be an excellent thing.
He does call-ins on my friends on the same network that I do radio work in the States. He calls in there now. It's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And Hesham, you're absolutely correct about lawyers in Canada. Most of them are greedy as well as they care about money, unless you're a celebrity or wealthy. Look, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I've had over 270 court appearances in 5 years. I can tell you everything you need to know about lawyers. And here's what it is. They're all cowards. They do not want to upset the apple cart, so they will do whatever the Law Society says they should, which means even if they're not left-wing, they've got to pretend like they are. And they will, and they'll take your money, and they'll do it. And there's this new thing that Canadian lawyers do. It's called case assessment. And now Stefanos indicated once before this was illegal, but they do it anyway, where you pay them $5,000, and they'll look at the case, have a cup of coffee, and then call you the next day saying, nah, your case is not that good for us. We're not going to take it. So you're out $5,000. That is what Canadian lawyers do. You know, I've even stated clearly that I have a whole bunch of lawsuits that I'm going to be filing shortly. They're all guaranteed wins, but it would be much better if a lawyer was to argue these for me. And I even said, you can have half the booty. Take half. I don't care. I want to win to make a point. Take half. And none of them will sign up for it. So lawyers in this country are useless.
I had a lawyer tell me that all lawyers are cowards, and that's why there's so many of them in politics.
Yeah. Danielle, your question here, when's Kevin J. Johnston coming back? Well, we're doing the show every Tuesday now, and we are broadcasting on more than 20 pages today. There will be a whole lot more social media platforms that we're going to be broadcasting on. And if you would like us to broadcast on your social media channel, whether it be YouTube, Gab, Twitter, whatever it might be, let us know. And we will send you a link that you can fill out, and then we can just go ahead and actually have the show go out on your platform. So thank you for that. Someone was asking another question here. I'm just looking for it.
I saw one there from Russ Houston. I wouldn't mind touching on for a second, if you don't mind there.
There we go.
That one, yeah.
Nuclear threats. Okay. So, Russ, there's not going to be a full-scale all-out nuclear war because, the old adage of nuclear weapons, everyone's got them, so no one's going to use them. I mean, if you think about all the countries right now that are nuclear powers, it's United States, Russia, Great Britain, France, India, Pakistan, and after the breakup of the Soviet Union, Kazakhstan became the third leading nuclear power in the world. Now, we also know that Kazakhstan was broke for quite some time, so who knows who they sold nuclear weapons to. If somebody sets one off, now you got 20 countries that are armed, they'll set them off. Anything that we're going to see will be tactical. Tactical nuclear weapons, very, very small ones that'll take out, a couple square miles and not dump fallout 3 countries over. Wayne, what's your thought? Go ahead.
2 months ago, I get a call from one of my associates in the UK. They were doing phone poll surveys asking if the populace would support a British first strike nuclear policy. Since then, the Brits have been busted 3 times committing terrorist activities against Russia. This was why Bojo pretty much had to vacate so that he didn't end up in war crimes tribunal because of things. But anyway, in the meantime, Russia has intercepted 3 dirty nuclear weapons destined for the Ukraine battlefront, and that trend is continuing since the illustrious leadership of the NATO forces are now contracting and importing ISIS and arming them. So our former enemy is now under contract to fight on our apparent Western leadership's behalf and support of the Ukraine. And so the pipeline of illicit illegal weapons is continuing, and the Western regime led by the United Nations, whose enforcers are NATO, are not taking it off of the table as to an opportunity to, if they feel like they can win the war against Russia by using it, they will. But what they need to do is they need Russia to be the bad guy to justify them engaging in this, because too many people know that Russia does not have a first strike nuclear policy. So this is why we see some of these crazy radical leftists saying a nuclear winter would be good for the planet. They're actually trying to sell a nuclear war, and it's not working. And in the meantime, worry about nuclear bombs. What we have to worry about is the Ukrainian NATO forces going after the nuclear power station in the Ukraine that is being protected by Russia. Russia does not want a nuclear disaster 6 times the size of Chernobyl. They know what happens with that, but the madmen behind the Ukraine do. So nuclear war, they don't need nuclear war. All they need to do is carry on what they're doing, and they'll get the result they're looking for. And they're going to only do that if they are desperate enough, feel like they're losing power enough so badly in the West that they need to move forward on this, because these crazy guys, they don't ever respond in an equal and opposite reaction. They always knee-jerk and go full-on extreme crazy right out of the chute. So This is again why it's so important to get the red wave, because they will de-escalate what is going on in the Ukraine.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so Derek is asking here if you guys want our show to be broadcast direct on your Facebook page, YouTube channel, Twitter account. What else do we have? D Live, Locals, Getter. I mean, you name it. We're pretty much able to broadcast on it now, and we will. We're going to take full advantage of what's come out in the way of technology. Email derekstory85@gmail.com. Please go ahead and hit print screen on your keyboards, folks, and send Derek that. Please.
Flood the internet.
Yeah, we're going to flood it, because if Facebook is going to crash, well, we want to be ahead of the game, and we will be. But listen, guys, you have no idea how much I miss doing this show. You have no idea. It drives me crazy that the government said that I couldn't do this for almost 8 months. It's crazy. And now what they've done is they've put me in this horrible position of having nothing to do. And there's nothing worse than having intelligence like I do and nothing to do, right? I can't except talk to Derek. And what can Derek and I talk about? That's right. Derek, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? There's nothing to do. So that's Derek's email address right there, everybody. And please support us if you can. We really do want to bring this show back on a regular basis, but it costs money to do all of the above. It's email money transfers down below, freedomreport.ca at gmail.com. You can also go to KevinJJohnston.ca, and you can also talk with Wayne anytime on his website, which is Wayne?
whatsupcanada.org. Everything I stream now, I stream to my website as well. So you don't have to remember 50 million social media platforms or how to use them. Just go to my website and you'll see everything that I'm streaming live, real time. And some of my friends too, from time to time.
Absolutely fantastic. Rose, thanks for putting that up for us. Whatsupcanada.org. That's where you're going to find Wayne. Oh, Wayne, we're down to our last 4 minutes here. What does your concluding statement on the midterm in general, what we should be thinking about over the next while? Go ahead.
I think no matter which way it goes, get a hold of your popcorn, enjoy the onset of winter, because we are entering the couple of different seasons. One of them is going to be entertaining and watching the sacrificial political lamb. The other season is going to be the dying season, and those are going to be two of the most dominant subjects over the next little while, good, bad, or otherwise. The left will do what they do while they squeal and shriek their way into oblivion, as far as for the mercenary media goes. But their days are numbered too. CNN, for example, was just purchased by a Trump supporter a couple of months ago. People like Don Leming can't even hold a morning spot anymore. So we're seeing the pendulum shift. Hold on, keep your sanity. You've got bigger problems to deal with, and look after your people and family and clan. It's going to be a rough season dealing with the medical catastrophe that's about to befall North America. And then we're going to move into the season of justice in spring. So that's what I see coming, and hopefully the red tidal wave creates that, that final where nobody's backing up anymore. That's what the world needs to do, is to stop backing up, stop retreating from this this commune fascist agenda, all being led by the world. WEF Fourth Reich, hashtag that. And keep going.
Wayne, thanks for being here, man. It was great to see you again. It really is.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep rocking in the free world, right?
That's a promise. Don't you stop, my friend.
All right.
Have a great night, pal. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Wayne Peters, everybody, from whatsupcanada.org. What a phenomenal guy. So we're done, folks. That's it for now. We're playing a great song here by a guy I went to grade school with named Mike Pronokis. It's called The Line. So if you can, support all of us. If you guys would like to hear more songs from Mike Pronokis, do indeed let me know. We want to support all Canadian talent, because Canadians, for some reason, just don't do that. So let us be the catalyst to hooking people up with each other. You can always catch me anytime at all here at this new address. We've got P.O. Box 85253, RPO Alberta Park. That is in Calgary, T2A 7R7. Follow me on Truth Social, please, and on TikTok, and on Getter, and on Parler. I'm also back on Twitter, and the list goes on. I do this all day. Look, I'm just so happy that all of you decided to join us tonight. As soon as we have the results, I'm going to post those on social media and, of course, on my website. We're just not going to get those results. It's been sent to me now in a private text. The results are probably not going to be in for at least 3 more days. That's highly unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're just so happy to have had all the guests that we had tonight, and God, I miss seeing you all. Thank you all for being here. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show. Have yourselves a great night.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm the one to get it, bruh. I swear to God I'll get it, bruh. Hey, I ain't never giving up. Yeah, I never give